Performance. You understand what I mean, right? Feeling like I'd gained a powerful ally, I smiled brightly. Aren't you asking too much of me? The professor lightly flicked my forehead. A person who already performs at a professional level saying it's too much. We call that making excuses. I rubbed my stinging forehead while looking at the professor with an uncomprehending expression. Don't look at me like that. What, do I need to spell it out for you to accept it? Professor Baekhyun soon blushed and cleared his throat. In young people's terms, I wanted to get some honey. Honey? Yes. Getting honey. How would he get honey from Min Ki-won? Imagine having a performer who's already at a level good enough to show to people. And all that performer needs is a little classical soul added. Wouldn't any professor covet that? In other words, Min Ki-won already has skills comparable to a professional. It also implied that in next week's competition, if I perform properly, I could have an evenly matched battle with Mr. Jo Jin-yeol. Actually, when I heard I'd be competing with someone who performs piano on broadcasts, I was a bit complacent. But while seeing you today, Eclert, my competitive spirit is boiling. I never dreamed the Largissimo team would prepare such an event. Even Mr. Jo Jin-yeol's words, whose allegiance I'm still unsure of, had shaken me up. Your mother doesn't seem interested in debuting you. I'm very tempted. You can think of me as a materialistic adult. It would be understandable. How could I not be moved by the continued praise from the professor who had always been on my side? Someday Siwoo might receive such praise too. I was already full of motivation to crush Mr. Yoon, but the professor's support doubled my strength. I need to end this bad connection with that nasty man quickly, so I can spend more time having fun with Siwoo. Chapter 122, Tooth for Tooth. Every adult was once a child, and those children grew up witnessing the absurdities of adults. As they become adults, children grow in two different directions. There are those who cleverly exploit the absurdities of adults and become similar adults themselves. And there are those who refuse to compromise with such absurdities, ultimately preserving their innocence and standing firm according to their own principles. Of course, since society isn't so forgiving, even the latter must maintain some level of social adaptability. In the process, they may become tainted or have to turn a blind eye to absurdities at times. Still, a true adult, an adult who knows how to protect children's futures, will never close their eyes and pretend not to see in times of crisis. But Baekhyun's role is merely to place a finger on the scale of another judge who maintains a precarious neutrality. In the end, Min Ki-won herself must overcome this crisis. An adult who solves everything might seem reliable, but they aren't necessarily someone who can provide good guidance. He's already succeeded in getting his name, Baekhyun, added to the list of judges for the Largissimo Hidden Camera Content Day. Now it's Min Ki-won's turn. With her performance skills, she should be able to sway the hearts of the other judges instructed by Yoon Gwan-cheol. That's where it starts. What's this about? Suddenly asking to meet. It's been a while, but why that expression? We're not exactly on friendly terms, are we? But since it seemed ambiguous to leave everything to Ki-won alone, Baekhyun had personally made the long journey to meet his old school nemesis again. A subtle tension filled the quiet traditional Korean cafe where not a single customer was present. The manager and part-timer had temporarily left the counter to organize the storage room. Just get to the point of why you called me here. Why so sharp? Did I say something offensive? Yoon Gwan-cheol shot a cold glance, apparently displeased with Baekhyun's casual attitude. The atmosphere grew even chillier. The air-conditioning breeze froze the space between them once more. Fine. I'll get straight to the point. Tusk. Baekhyun clicked his tongue and said, "Your son. I can't teach him anymore. Find another teacher." Baekhyun and Yoon Gwan-cheol had never gotten along since their school days. It wasn't because of any entanglement with women, they simply had incompatible values from a young age. Bang! A palm slammed down on the glass table. What nonsense is this all of a sudden? It's exactly as I said. I can't teach him anymore, so find another teacher yourself. How can you say this out of nowhere when you've been silent all this time? We've barely finished the first semester. How much have you even taught him? To be honest, Yoon Jae-chang was a student impossible to teach. He was prepared to learn, had a solid foundation, and knew how to express his own color. There was just one problem. Yoon Guancheol, the father's existence was Jae-chang's highest hurdle, but until now, Baek Kyung-yeon had never brought this up to Guancheol directly. Yoon Guancheol was unsuitable for deeply accepting others' advice. From the moment he became a famous violinist, he stopped looking around him. He lived only looking at himself. After his wife's death, this mental illness worsened and he began imposing his thoughts on his children. What would happen if someone told such a person, "Your parenting is wrong"? A fight would break out, 100 times out of 100. Since both were cultured adults, it would end at a verbal dispute, but where would Yoon Guancheol's wrath extend afterward? Naturally, toward his daughter Yoon Jae-yu and son Yoon Jae-chang. Not wanting to see the young children continue to get hurt, Baek Kyung-yeon had avoided confronting Yoon Guancheol directly. But he couldn't stand by and watch the two children suffer. Though he didn't get along with Yoon Guancheol, he had been close with his wife. That's why he recommended them to the Korea Arts University and found good teachers. Taking on the role of Jae-chang's teacher was also an extension of his consideration. There was a reason he hadn't nagged about Jae-chang's terrible attendance. If you weren't going to bring this up earlier, you shouldn't have even considered getting him into Korea Arts University. If you were going to do this, you should have said something sooner. How can you suddenly tell me to find another teacher now? Are you really a professor? Baek Kyung-yeon listened to Yoon Guancheol's words. He gently swirled the teacup in his hand, displaying composure. Is it because of Jae-chang's poor classroom attitude? There was no answer. Baek Kyung-yeon stared directly at Yoon Guancheol while sipping his tea. Why don't you say something? The word obsession was deeply etched on Yoon Guancheol's crumpled face. Baek Kyung-yeon recalled a conversation he had with Guancheol's wife in the past. She had also predicted her husband's unstable mental state. With her sudden deteriorating illness, she might have struggled to accept her own death. Yet, she showed no signs of this, busy worrying about her family's future instead. He will definitely change 180 degrees after I'm gone. He might force the children to carry on my will. It might be difficult for you to stop him, Young-yeon. I know how stubborn he is. But if we just leave him be, he'll clearly run off in the wrong direction just once. When Guancheol tries to do something wrong, will you stop him just once? Whether this was that moment wasn't certain. But he couldn't tolerate Guancheol trying to teach Min Ki-won incorrectly after Jae-chang. If there was ever a time to bring up the bitter story he had kept in a corner of his heart, it would be now. Until you step away from the children's education, I cannot teach Yoon Jae-chang. You might think that since he's found Min Ki-won, he doesn't care what happens to Jae-chang's future. But Yoon Guancheol, despite his raw methods, was someone determined to take responsibility for the children's futures. Wasn't he fulfilling his wife's request to take care of the children, albeit in his own misguided way? The sudden cutting off of Jae-chang's path would be extremely unpleasant for Yoon Guancheol. I haven't said much until now, but his attendance is poor too. If this continues, he'll be expelled due to attendance issues. Why are you telling me this now? Then, the teacup Baek Kyung-yeon was holding fell onto the table with a loud noise. If I told you, your son would end up with more bruises. I don't see why I should. How can a teacher be at ease when his student is getting beaten up somewhere? Realizing his son had told Baek Kyung-yeon everything, Yoon Guancheol let out a hollow laugh and grabbed his forehead. Silence fell between them for a while. The cafe staff who had finished organizing the storage room only glanced briefly at their table. Chirp, chirp. A sparrow perched under the eaves of the traditional roof sang briefly. Yoon Guanqiao removed his hand from his forehead and raised his head. There seems to be a misunderstanding. I did discipline Jai Chang, but I never hit him hard enough to leave bruises. I wonder if Yoon Jai Chang would see it that way. Think about it. What if your father suddenly said, "Everyone in our family must become a musical god," and beat you? You'd only feel rebellious. But Yoon Guanqiao couldn't accept Baek Yeongnyeon's words. Even if his father had done that, Yoon Guanqiao would have somehow accepted that will and become who he is today. He was the kind of person who, even in the face of absurdity and oppression, didn't blame his environment but did his best in the situation. From his perspective, his daughter Jai-yu was an excellent child who took after him. Jai Chang and Jin Sae-byok were cowards quick to run away. They were unstable children who needed to be embraced and controlled. Don't you think your example is wrong? Even in that situation, I would have endured my father's violence and become a musical god. That's possible because it's you. Your child isn't Yoon Guanqiao. Think about it, you idiot. So what? Are you saying I should just watch whatever the kids do, however they ruin their lives? Do you think that's possible? Yoon Guanqiao, who had raised his voice, seemed to notice the glances from the counter and lowered his voice. I absolutely cannot allow that. Wasting talent when one has the potential for excellence is a waste of life and a sin. How can you, as a professor, not understand this? Baek Yeongnyeon sighed deeply. He knew it. That persuading Yoon Guanqiao was impossible. That's why Baek Yeongnyeon had arranged this meeting with the intention of causing a small ripple from the beginning. I'm truly glad you're not a professor. What? If you were a professor at our university? Nanjuk-deek. It's Nanjuk-deek, man. After emptying his remaining cup, Baek Yeongnyeon stood up. Yoon Guanqiao hesitated, waiting for his next words, but Baek Yeongnyeon didn't say anything more as he left. Hearing the part-timer's farewell, Baek Yeongnyeon came out to the street and thought, I wonder if he didn't understand what Nanjuk-deek means. But perhaps it was better this way. Rather than wasting energy on someone impossible to persuade, adding to their confusion might be more helpful. Getting into his car in the parking lot, Baek Yeongnyeon called someone. So, Chaewon, have you practiced enough? Yes, Professor. I've practiced a lot. Good. An adult is a lighthouse showing the way for children. But can a lighthouse decide the direction of a ship at will? No. An adult as a lighthouse should show what lies ahead in the direction the child as a ship wants to go. That is what makes a proper adult. Jinyeol is indeed impressive, but you can achieve good results too. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, and I'll be harsh in tomorrow's evaluation, so don't be shocked. Ki-won's voice over the phone was confident. I won't be shocked. Chapter 123, Brother. After finishing my call with Professor Baek Yeongnyeon, I sat blankly on the sofa by the window for a while. The sunset coloring the sky felt unusually intense today, perhaps because of the important competition awaiting me tomorrow. I practiced the piece so much that continuing would only negatively affect my condition tomorrow, so I decided to stop. Instead, I just spent time waiting for Siwoo to arrive. With the big stage ahead, I wanted to draw even a little strength from him. It didn't bother me before I died since the original owner of this body fears the stage. I needed to calm her down a bit in advance. As the red sky gradually mixed with blue paint, and then the blue with black, and finally when the stardust began to sprinkle across it. Knock, knock, I heard a knocking sound. Miss Siwoo is here. Ah, okay. The sound of loafers approached gradually along the hallway. The door opened refreshingly as always. Through the gap of the parting door, Siwoo appeared with a bright smile. Sorry. My lesson ran late today. The professor suddenly said he had an appointment and left, so I ended up waiting since he mentioned being outside when he contacted me. I suspect that's why he was delayed. Shouldn't you be going to bed soon? You said tomorrow's filming starts early. I should. But I wanted to see you before sleeping. Hearing this, Siwoo's face turned red. So, was it worth the wait? Wordlessly, I burrowed into Siwoo's arms. I hadn't mentioned it anywhere, but truthfully, I'd been quite stressed after hearing about Mr. Yoon Guanchial's sabotage attempts. If I hadn't been worried, would I have sought Professor Baek Kyung-yeon's counsel? I reached out because I needed his help, even if just a little. Still, I was grateful for having died once. If I hadn't died, if I hadn't become Min Ki-won, there were things I would never have realized. Experiencing 2 lifetimes taught me something. When your own efforts aren't enough, it's better to ask for help than to struggle alone. And that asking for help from someone like the professor, who is practically a parent to me, isn't wrong or sinful. In everything I thought I accomplished alone, there were actually invisible helpers. Even the relationship between Min Ki-won and young Siwoo was possible because they joined forces, wasn't it? Even superheroes can't do everything alone. In moments of crisis, helpers always appear to assist them, sometimes making sacrifices, but those sacrifices help the hero grow stronger. That's right. In my previous life, instead of only conversing with the piano, I should have sought out more people, talked with them, communicated. I should have embarked on a journey to find my own color. Even the many classical teachers called geniuses were never alone. They had reliable friends around them. Those teachers spent as much time away from the piano as they did in front of it. If inspiration had been proportional to time spent at the piano, they would have done so. But they didn't. That's why I was grateful for Siwoo. Grateful that he believed my absurd story. Grateful that he said he would actively support any version of me. Grateful that he said he liked me just as I am. Yes. It's so worth it. I want to stay like this forever. Should I stay over tonight? Feeling embarrassed for no reason, I pushed Siwoo away. Still, I really enjoy this time we spend together. When he's by my side, I feel secure and glimpse hope for the future. I wish he would stay with me forever. Even if he doesn't directly help me, I want him to remain someone I can rely on. This feeling, this explosive emotion, though I can't express it properly yet. Not tonight. I need to prepare calmly for tomorrow's competition. Just wait a few months. I'll express it first. I probably won't be able to hold back any longer than that. It's impossible to stop the growth of the budding sprout within me, which has begun to grow from receiving love. Instead, I rushed back into Siwoo's arms. Like this. Stay a little longer. With my eyes closed, I entered a meditative state, hoping to emulate his calmness and not get nervous during the performance. If there is a god of music, please descend upon me just for tomorrow. I only wish to borrow a bit of divine power to teach one nasty old man a lesson. If this helps, take all the time you need. Whenever I nestled in his arms like this, Siwoo's once wandering hands now naturally found their way to the crown of my head. It was probably the best action he could take to control his desires while satisfying his urge to touch me. But regardless of the reason, perhaps the god of music has now descended into the next world through young Siwoo's body. Otherwise, this feeling I'm experiencing now is difficult to put into words. I, who can breathe underwater, felt as comfortable as if I were closing my eyes peacefully in warm water. The tension disappears, leaving only warmth and security. I see, just as a newborn baby stops crying when held in its mother's arms. This is where I belong. In young Siwoo's arms, thump, I pushed Siwoo away and covered my face with both hands. Why, what's wrong? And nothing at all. Go ahead and write a novel. If you like Siwoo so much, just ask him for help. Why are you stepping up pretending to help him? At this rate, I might as well get captured by Mr. Yoon Guanchiao like a fairy tale princess and scream, "Save me, prince." Just endure for half a year after this is over, it'll be August. From September to December is just 5 months. I'm not an adult who can't endure that much. I'm just making excuses when I could easily endure if I tried. Min Ki-won. Ki-won. Child. Siwoo. Yes. Finally, unable to control myself and anticipating a potential meltdown, I came up with one solution. I don't want Siwoo's help in any other aspect, but in this one thing he can help me. Help me, young Siwoo. No. Oh Appa. Suddenly, the distance between us disappeared because I recognized him as the same being as me, and I'm sure it's the same for him. So if I imprint myself as a woman 1 year younger than him, even if I lose control, Siwoo will stop me. Until this year ends, I'm still a minor. If it's hard to stop alone, we can stop together. We can hold hands and overcome the crisis. I'm actually a year younger than you, so I thought it might be better to call you this way. I can't stop the burning furnace of my heart alone, so I need your help. Why, like before, should I just speak casually? I didn't tremble this much even the day before the Chaewon competition finals. Here now was not a person who considered piano the most important thing in life, but a girl who found the push and pull with young Siwoo most important. The longer the wait, the more my pupils lost their place and trembled. My toes came together and apart repeatedly. My fingers pressed against each other, leaving cross-shaped marks. Sorry, just thinking for a moment. So, the answer is, I like it when you call me Appa. I'm saying this because I genuinely like it. I know young Siwoo well. That's why I remember that Siwoo Appa was on the list of things I wish girlfriend Min Ki-won would do that he had created in his heart. You want to hear Appa even after hearing it endlessly from Baek Ching-ha. Of course you do. Hearing it from Baek Ching-ha and hearing it from Min Ki-won are completely different. Why? However, Siwoo's expression didn't look particularly happy for someone whose wish had just come true. Do you really like it? Your expression doesn't look genuinely happy. Why? I really like it, I said. Maybe you prefer me just calling you casually? No, I don't. Then what is it? Young Siwoo's body language is definitely not saying extremely pleased. What are you hiding, young Siwoo? Secrets between us are absolutely not. As I was about to scold Siwoo internally, I remembered the lie I was telling him. Even I haven't told Siwoo everything, so why should Siwoo be completely transparent with me? We once recognized each other as the same being. But as I've mentioned several times, people change and adapt differently according to their environment. I'm doing my best to live as Min Ki-won. So the current me is very different from young Siwoo of my previous life. I can't know everything about the Siwoo in front of me without conversation. We are the same person, but at the same time, we are strangers. Still, about what happens 3 years later, I don't want to tell you that you might die. There was something suspicious about your emotional expression just now, but I believe there's a reason for that too. Then, I'll call you Appa from now on. Siwoo Appa. A grin that seemed both wide and uncomfortably lopsided. It bothered me inside, but I resolved not to probe his feelings. Because whatever Siwoo says must be right. Because he wouldn't lie to me. It must all be to protect me until next year. Anyway, finish the filming well tomorrow and come back. His large hand stroked my head as usual. The familiar comforting feeling washed over me. Want to eat out afterward? You worked hard, so you should eat something nice. I smiled brightly, showing my white teeth. You choose the menu, Appa. Chapter 124, I look forward to working with you. 1 day later, Largissimo's studio. The preparations for filming a content that was essentially a hidden camera yet not quite a hidden camera were complete, with almost everyone waiting already aware of the performer's identity. Though faces couldn't be seen behind the partition during the performance, who was Professor Baek Young-yeon? He was a professional performance evaluator on par with Professor Jang Jin-si, the existing judge known as a professional authenticator. Moreover, one of today's performers was Baek Young-yeon's student, and the other was a potential student whose performances he had heard several times. How could he not distinguish between them? And the same was true for Yoon Hak-cheol, who was an acquaintance and distant cousin of Yoon Gwan-cheol, occupying the judge's seat today instead of Professor Jang Jin-si. Hello, Professor Yoon Hak-cheol. It's been a while. Wow. Brother, what brings you here? I heard you're substituting today. I'm also here as a substitute. I've been quite free lately. Do you know me? Baek Young-yeon's sharp glare warned him not to acknowledge their acquaintance until after filming ended, as they were meeting as opponents. Wow. Ha ha ha. What a coincidence. Shall we have dinner together afterward? That would be nice. How have you been? Yoon Hak-cheol glared at the two staff members while shaking hands with Baek Young-yeon, but they were too busy with filming preparations to notice his gaze. I let my guard down originally. The person who was supposed to judge alongside Yoon Hak-cheol today wasn't a piano department professor or a professional performer. Since Eclarte was a piano YouTuber, the plan was to invite someone from the industry rather than a professor to judge this time. So naturally, Yoon Hak-cheol thought he could manipulate the evaluation as he pleased. But what was this? Professor Baek Young-yeon? The plan he had arranged with Yoon Gwan-cheol was completely ruined. Hello, professors. Yes, hello. Wow, thank you so much for inviting me to this event. No, not at all. Professor, you've helped us so much with the filming, making this content incredibly rich. We're truly grateful. Haha. Was it that significant? Yes, as you suggested, Professor. We invited one more judge today. Oh, really? Who did you invite? He was truly a sly fox. There wasn't much time, yet he had somehow met with the staff separately and proposed changes to the content. I knew he had connections, but to this extent? One of today's competition pieces is a game soundtrack, right? Yes, I saw that. Aesora Memories, is that the game? Oh, how did you know? My student often has it running beside him during lessons, saying he needs to complete daily quests. That piece he first learned about thanks to his student Yoon Jae-chang and then again from his potential student Min Ki-won. The three-headed archangel, the boss from Aesora Memories Mystery Confrontation. So, we've invited the game director himself here today. Actually, we wanted to invite the entire development team, but they said they were busy preparing for an update. So we had no choice but to invite him as their representative. The third judge for today was the director of Aesora Memories, who had introduced that boss to the world. A middle-aged man with abundant curly hair, who had been standing to one side, approached Professor Baek Young-yeon and extended his hand, as if he knew it was time for introductions. Hello. It's an honor to meet the master, Professor Baek Young-yeon. Oh my. Not at all. It's my honor to meet the game director my student loves the most. May I take a picture with you? I'd like to brag to my student. Of course. Unlike the three people laughing together, Yoon Hak-cheol couldn't smile. The atmosphere was such that even if he alone raised objections, he couldn't overturn it. Yoon Hak-cheol was openly on Jo Jin-yool's side, and Baek Young-yeon was openly on Min Ki-won's side. But Ha Young-jin, the director of Aesora Memories, was completely neutral. It was unclear how deep his knowledge of music was, but compared to professors who mainly evaluated based on skill, he was likely to judge with a bias toward emotion. In that case, Min Ki-won could win 2:1. In other words, no matter how much Yoon Hak-cheol sided with Jo Jin-yool, if he couldn't win Ha Young-jin's heart, he would certainly lose. But wouldn't this be disadvantageous for him too? However, with an odd number of judges, there was no possibility other than victory or defeat. For Min Ki-won, who would win the bet if she tied or won, the option of a tie had disappeared. In other words, Baek Young-yeon had declared with his challenge that today's competition could only have Min Ki-won as the winner. This is actually better. Nonsense. No matter how impressive Min Ki-won might be for an amateur, she couldn't beat Jo Jin-yool. He was Korea's most successful pianist, having placed second in the Chopin competition. Even if he was performing a piece outside his specialty, how could he possibly lose? You've greatly miscalculated, senior. Although artistic evaluation is relative, such relativity dulls in the face of absolute skill difference. Even non-experts can distinguish which music sounds more pleasing to the ear. That's why Yoon Hak-yeol firmly resolved not to be swayed by Baek Young-yeon's words today. No matter what happened, he would ensure that Jo Jin-yeol became the winner. Asterisk in the waiting room, minutes before filming began. I peeked through the small window on the waiting room door at the hall where the piano was placed. There are about 10 people watching. About 5 people including the judges beyond the partition. And inside the partition, about 5 people including Jo Jin-yeol, the cameraman, the host, and the staff. It was an extremely nerve-wracking situation. But I had clear confidence in my color. Neither the pure pink of Min Ki-won that I first showed to Yoon Jae-yu and Professor Baek Young-yeon, nor the pitch-black color of Jeong Siwoo, but a subtle color in between. That was the symbol of my existence and evidence of our intertwined fate. Me, who had tasted difficulties, hardships, frustration, and resignation in my previous life. And Min Ki-won, who had experienced failed love. Added to that, the girl Min Ki-won who was excited and flustered by love, and me who was thriving and achieving everything I wanted. Today's performance would contain the pure essence of me. I closed my eyes tightly and clenched my clasped hands. The furnace in my heart was growing day by day, fueled by the fluttering emotions I received from Siwoo. Standing before this fiercely burning furnace today, I called out to Siwoo, using the flames as a mirror. Siwoo, help me. I thought of Siwoo. More precisely, I recalled the peaceful warmth I felt in his embrace yesterday. The flames in the furnace blazed higher, transmitting the heat of my heart throughout my body. Even the low temperature of the waiting room, set to combat the summer heat, no longer felt so cool. My body is now burning like a fireball. All right, preparation complete. Don't be too nervous. As I stood there blankly after finishing my prayer, Jo Jin-yeol approached and joked. Ah, thank you. Indeed. A clarté in the videos was perfection itself, but she's still human after all. She's not nervous at all, so I was worried that I might mess up my performance because I'm the one who's nervous. The fingertips of Jo Jin-yeol, who showed a warm smile, trembled slightly. Without having to ask, I could understand what was in his heart. Even someone who placed second in the Chopin competition gets nervous about such a small stage. I'd only heard about this from the professor, so it was fascinating to see it firsthand. Waiting in the waiting room before going to the piano is really torturous. Yes, it is. Before I died, I had never been nervous in a waiting room. I had never felt worry or anxiety about what would happen on stage. I thought it was just a normal demonstration where I showed others what I had practiced. A competition is essentially a type of test, and the person who shows their abilities best gets the highest score. And for that, I believed one shouldn't be nervous. If my heart were as cold as a robot's, there would be no reason to be nervous, but then it would be difficult to put sincerity into the performance. But perhaps that was a mistaken idea. So, at some point, I started practicing performing while nervous. It was to convey my heart to the audience while minimizing missed touches. Even my senior Jo Jin-yeol was saying it. That playing isn't done mechanically, but with the heart. The heart comes first, and perfect keystrokes follow. Indeed, since becoming Min Ki-won, my performances have aimed for emotional richness rather than perfection. Except for pieces that require restraint of certain emotions, I've focused on incorporating the fluttering feelings I began to experience after meeting Siwoo into my performances. Of course, it was undeniable that this was built upon perfect technique and skill. The current me stood on the foundation of efforts accumulated by Jeong Siwoo, who thought he could play without mistakes, and the many selves of Min Ki-won. Having failed once, I could correct my mistakes and move in a different direction. I was reborn, learning from death and despair. Although it may not be a live stage, a courtier must already be accustomed to performing while nervous. That's why I felt you were a formidable opponent since we first met. My opponent is a man who could be called Korea's strongest. With a hardened expression devoid of composure, he extended his hand to me. I look forward to our competition today. I took a deep breath and grasped his hand. Likewise, senior. Chapter 125. Head-on confrontation. I'm curious about your feelings on placing second in the Chaewon competition. What efforts did you make? And how happy are you to receive this result? I was certain I would take first place. My performance was perfect. There were no mistakes. The audience cheered. Even the professor who conducted the orchestra embraced me tightly after the finale, showing how flawlessly perfect the final performance had been. But Jinyeol-jo had an enemy. Before entering the Korea National University of Arts, a man he met abroad during his high school years. Jinyeol's first mentor, his rival, and a conductor from a famous orchestra with a piano background. He had chosen Jinyeol, who shone brightly even among brilliant performers. Jinyeol realized too late that this was one of the man's wicked habits. Yes, the man had taken Jinyeol under his wing with the petty intention of separating him from his country's competitive young performers and destroying Jinyeol's playing itself. Despite feeling devastated by this pure malice, Jinyeol didn't give up. With the mindset that what was broken could be fixed, he devoted himself to playing again. Of course, no one can live their entire life just enduring. After his graduation was confirmed, he went to his teacher and shouted that he would resent him for the rest of his life. That he would remember him until his dying day. Words that didn't need to be said. After returning to Korea, he went to the Korea National University of Arts. There, he met Professor Jumion Beek. In contrast to the sinister malice, he found unpolished kindness. He was immersed in that awkward yet warm teacher-student relationship. Only then did Jinyeol understand. While his first teacher, who had damaged him, was indeed a bad person, the time spent under him hadn't been in vain. Even through 3 years of despair and frustration, the sprout that was Jinyeol had grown into a sturdy stem. In the end, it became the fertilizer that allowed him to bloom fully under Professor Beek's guidance. Thus, Jinyeol was reborn. Transformed into a radiant light, he stepped out into the world. At the Chaewon competition, it finally seemed the world was acknowledging him. Second place goes to Jinyeol-jo from Korea. Congratulations. A breathtaking defeat, separated from first place by just 1 point. The cause was his former teacher, sitting among the judges. The words he had left after graduating high school had returned like a boomerang, ultimately pulling him down from first place. What a shame. Just 1 point difference after receiving the judges' scorecards, Jinyeol let out a deep sigh. On scorecards filled with 10s, 9s, and at worst 8s, only his former teacher had given him a 1. Tragically, that single point had split his fate. It had dragged him down from first to second place. An irreversible outcome. That man went too far. Even with your history, how could he do this from the judge's seat where fairness is paramount? It's fine. Before Professor Beek, who was expressing his discontent, Jinyeol could only smile. He accepted this as his karma, the fate of the man named Jinyeol-jo. How could Jinyeol have known that the man he had antagonized would unfortunately appear on the judges' panel? Art is subjective. My performance might be worth 10 points to someone, but only 1 point to another. In the end, he had received good responses from everyone except the one person he considered an enemy. Jinyeol thought that was enough. He knew all too well how difficult it was to make someone who disliked you change their mind, having felt it deeply throughout his 3 years of high school. It's been a while, Jinyeol. Hello. Have you been well? No one wants to make many enemies, but that's truly difficult. Tastes differ, personalities differ, cultures differ, education differs, parents differ, circumstances differ, languages differ, environments differ, histories differ, thoughts differ, ideologies differ. With so many differences among people living tangled together on this planet, how could one possibly be liked by everyone? A person can never be loved by everyone in this world. Knowing this, we still engage in social life to maintain good relationships with as many people as possible, to minimize enemies, to reduce future troubles, to avoid someone suddenly stabbing us in the back. So we shake hands even with former enemies. We pretend to forgive, pretend it's okay, despite what they've done to us. I'm sorry for being cold when we first met. It wasn't mature of me, but I don't have a good relationship with Professor Beak. Please understand. Ah yes, these things happen. I don't mind. His meeting with Yoon was like that too. Their first encounter was close to mistreatment because Yol was Professor Beak's student. But when they met again recently, the warm reception was almost burdensome. Was it because he wasn't a second-place Chopin competition winner then, but is now? No. Who was Yoon? He had already achieved success as a violinist, and his name invariably came up when asked about known violin players. He had nothing to lose to Yol. That's why he was confident. He didn't approach with a subservient attitude. Rather, thank you for inviting me first. If possible, could you introduce me to people you know, both domestically and internationally? Conversely, Yol was just a child in society who had barely earned one title. He needed more connections, more allies. Yesterday's enemy becomes today's ally. It was more comfortable to eliminate potential future enemies as much as possible. Haha. Sure. You're a young person who knows manners. He readily accepted Yoon's content proposal because there was no particular reason to refuse. However, when the judge was replaced and he learned that person was a close relative of Mr. Yoon, he realized what was happening now was no different from what he had experienced at the competition. The only difference was that the target wasn't himself, but the young girl now preparing to perform with him. Clert, the most recognized piano performer in subculture across games and animation. She was the rising star that Yoon wanted to extinguish. Now, we'll determine the performance order by drawing lots. Please each pick one. At Clert's age, Yol had played the piano filled with resentment, trying to escape from the tyranny of his wicked teacher, striving to tell people that his teaching was wrong, that his own thoughts were right. Even when scolded and mocked by his teacher for supposedly incorrect playing, he persevered. To be less damaged. To extract every possible lesson, even from a bad teacher. Perhaps she was in a similar situation now. What had happened between her and Mr. Yoon to create this rift? It was probably something trivial. The adult was the first to show malice. The young girl resisted that malice. And because of that, she fell out of favor. Just as Yol had. Would you like to pick first? Innocent, bright green eyes looked up at Yol. There was no sense of malice. Only pure passion for the piano. Should this innocent future star be allowed to fade? Was that really the right thing for the future of the music world? Absolutely, absolutely not. No, I should be considerate to my junior. Come on. Today we're equal competitors, aren't we? Don't cry when you lose later. I won't cry, you know. When I was around Clert's age, I participated in many competitions and contests. I saw so many girls crying out of frustration when they lost. I won't cry. The girl, who had been pondering with her chin in her hand, snapped her fingers and smiled brightly. Let's play rock, paper, scissors. The winner picks first. She was a bold girl. She seemed blissfully unaware of the possibility of losing. But if things continued this way, she would be defeated. No matter how pitiful the circumstances, it was unthinkable for Yol to go easy on an opponent at the piano. I won. I'll pick first. So he took out insurance. Insurance so subtle that no one would notice Yol had interfered with the program. Oh, you go first. Min Ki-won unfolded her note and showed Yol the circle drawn on it. Jin-yeol, in the middle of unfolding his own note, nodded and said, I see. The host who brought the lots, a close senior of Jin-yeol's, nodded slightly before collecting the lots and leaving. So far, no problem. The drawing was set up so that no matter which one was chosen, the first performer would be selected. This way, a clerk could perform first, captivate the audience, and then Jin-yeol would follow. It was just a minor deception. There was only one reason he had done this. The two professors will each support their own candidates, but the game director of ASOR Memories, whose participation was confirmed today, was an ordinary person despite enjoying music. For a piece not well known in Korea, the judgment would inevitably be influenced by the first performer's performance. Judges, we will begin with Chopin's Etude Op. 25 No. 5. The order of performers will remain the same for each piece. First, our first performer. The fifth piece of Opus 25 among Chopin's Etudes, considered a textbook for all piano majors today. Known in the West as Wrong Note, this piece begins with a bouncy introduction full of dissonant minor chords that deviate from the techniques of the time. The impression of the piece varies greatly depending on what feeling the performer wants to convey. Jin-yeol had listened to Eclert's playing repeatedly. He knew she was accustomed to expressing rich and lovely emotions. Therefore, he believed that in contrast to himself, who excelled at conveying somewhat colder and bitter emotions, she would make a stronger impression on the judges. Go ahead, perform first, and imprint your color on the judges. Show them that you are absolutely not an inferior performer to me. Jin-yeol couldn't help but be surprised by Min Ki-won's performance as it began. From the always bright girls playing, he felt the pain and anguish of a revenant who had experienced terrible life hardships and returned. And it seemed like a challenge thrown directly at him. On the stage I prepared, you won't play according to my intentions. The past Jin-yeol, who had tried to show something of his own despite the oppression of his demanding teacher, rose up. His past self reproached him that perhaps his consideration might have been interference to a clerk. Even with several prepared strategies to protect Min Ki-won, he needed to hold back a little in the first performance for stability. But how could he commit deception in front of this confident girl? It was impossible. In that case, Jin-yeol clenched his fist. He would accept her challenge head-on. Chapter 126. I acknowledge it. The beginning of the performance was majestic. This wasn't just a flowery expression to set the mood, it truly was majestic. So much so that it evoked memories of Jin-yeol, a man whose life had been marked by deep valleys. The expressions of the two professors on the judging panel changed. If one had to compare, Professor Yoon Hak-cheol's face was slightly more pale. This is truly difficult to distinguish. Baek Yeon glanced at Yoon Hak-cheol's complexion and smirked. But still, this is bitter memories of the past spread through the discomfort of dissonance. Yet in one corner, there was a faint color that was impossible to hide. Pink, the adorable color of Min Ki-won, which seemed ready to jump out and shout I'm here, was subtly present. Yes, this was merely Min Ki-won's performance. She was acting out Jin-yeol's life on the piano. I won't be fooled anyway, but Yoon Hak-cheol might be. Yet, why did she sound like an adult who had experienced despair and frustration? It was different from merely imitating something she had seen. Perhaps because the cry from deep within her soul was intuitively transmitted through her fingertips to the keys, it was more sincere and authentic than any other performance. Did something bad happen while we were apart? Without such an explanation, this performance was truly astonishing. Come to think of it, back then, in front of Jiyu, the La Campanella that Min Ki-won had played had a strange color. It wasn't completely black. Nevertheless, it left a sorrowful emotion reminiscent of the colorless, odorless young Siwoo. More precisely, it felt like bright paint thoroughly mixed with black paint. Interestingly, though it resembled Siwoo, it was a color that Siwoo himself couldn't express. After all, he had never been pessimistic about his situation, never felt sad, never felt regretful. Digging deeper, It was a color that could only be expressed by someone who had indirectly experienced young Siwoo's circumstances, or someone who had buried that past and embarked on a new path. However, tracing back from that thought, one could only hypothesize that either Min Ki-won had unknowingly glimpsed into young Siwoo's life, or that Min Ki-won and young Siwoo were the same person. Both were absurd notions, weren't they? Useless thoughts. Baek Kyung-yeon stopped trying to deduce Min Ki-won's truth. Instead of wasting time on that, it was better to jot down evaluation notes for the performance while considering how to persuade Yoon Hak-cheol later. A performance that extracts only the extremely dark parts from a slightly murky pink anguish and anxiety, tension and worry. Waves of negative emotions accompanied the symbolic dissonance in the section, the main theme of the piece. But it couldn't remain dark throughout. After all, once the shocking section of Etude Op. 25 No. 5 ends, it immediately shifts from minor to major, bringing a fantastic and bright atmosphere. To perform the mood of the B section, this darkness must now be shaken off. It's coming soon. 8 measures. 4 measures. 2 measures. And 1 measure. Baek Kyung-yeon's jaw went slack. Though he couldn't see it, every judge present had a similar expression. Director Ha Young-jin, who was fiddling with his glasses on the left, was no exception. Everyone was astonished by Min Ki-won's performance. Like switching film reels in a movie, the genre had changed in an instant. Like tasting sweet cream cake after drinking bitter coffee. Like biting into a well-cooked piece of meat after eating only rice for a month. The body reacted first. It was truly a chameleon-like performance. Its Ki-won's color, butter color, was brighter than what was shown in Eclert's videos. If the lighting in Eclert's videos was like a standard LED monitor, the current Min Ki-won was like stadium lights turned to maximum brightness. What Chopin was thinking when he composed this piece during his lifetime, only people of that era, perhaps only Chopin himself, would know. But according to Min Ki-won's reinterpretation, the suffering lamb had reached the paradise it dreamed of. And there, it played with lovely flocks, forgetting worries and living happily. That's how one might interpret it. But when the passionate B section ends, the piece suddenly shifts back to a variation of the A section with its theme melody. As if waking from the ecstatic dream of the B section, increasingly complex dissonances precariously continue, and just when one might think, is this really the end? And give up, it concludes with an open ending, showing hope that it's not over yet. As if leaving the word continued hanging in the air. The sequel is determined in the imagination of the audience, colored by the performer's intent. So, what are those who heard Min Ki-won's performance thinking now? Are they envisioning a happy ending? Or a bad ending where all of this was just a dream? It's hopeful. Baek Kyung-yeon saw hope. The dissonant section was dark, but not as dark as the far reaches of space where no light penetrates. And the B section? It was so bright that one might believe they were standing next to the sun. The performance, exaggeratedly speaking, traveled between heaven and hell, but it was a journey leaning more towards heaven. Baek Kyung-yeon jotted down his impressions and glanced around. Director Ha Young-jin seemed quite moved but was contemplating how to express his thoughts on the performance. Meanwhile, Yoon Hak-cheol, he seems to hate himself unbearably. He appeared to be feeling guilty. He must have been surprised too. According to Yoon Gwan-cheol, she should have been just a girl who uploaded a few amateur performances on YouTube and fretted over likes. But Eclert controlled her emotions so well that one might doubt she was an amateur. She perfectly projected emotions for each section of the piece. She restrained where necessary and unleashed where appropriate. As Baek Kyung-yeon suspected, Yoon Hak-cheol was troubled. Goodness, to use such a child merely as an accompanist, what greed was Yoon Gwan-cheol indulging in? No matter how great a violinist Yoon Jae-yu might become, she wasn't on Eclert's level. It was like cutting off a wolf's legs to match a dog's stride. Lost in thought, he glanced towards Baek Kyung-yeon. The two professors' eyes met and there was a silent exchange. "Why, are you troubled?" But one must not forget. Yoon Hakchial needed money now, and Yoon Guanchial was one of the few who could readily provide it. No matter how brilliant a child's talent, Yoon Hakchial's family came first. For now, I'll reserve judgment. After setting aside favorable opinions and jotting down several ambiguous evaluations that made it hard to discern his likes and dislikes, Yoon Hakchial waited for the next performer. Jo Jin-yeol, show us what it means to be a professional. The true value of a Chopin competition winner. By the end of the performance, I was so tense I could hardly breathe, but I managed to show everything I wanted to. It's always Chopin. When playing his pieces, there's always a strange discomfort in a corner of my heart. Perhaps it's because he was a performer from Poland. His country was torn apart. He failed in love. He died at a young age. Though he was cautious about infusing anxiety and despair into his music, I still sensed his anguish and yearning for happiness between the bright pieces. That's why I loved this piece even more. No matter how much I claimed to emulate Liszt's performance and become a keyboard magician with the finest technique, looking back on my life, the emotional aspect inevitably led back to Chopin. It's no coincidence that I chose to compete in the Chopin competition among many international competitions. I deeply empathized with his life and had a strong desire to revive him in the modern era. In fact, Jo Jin-yeol, who placed second in 2021, was also a huge fan of Chopin. He knew how to reinterpret Chopin's anguish and present it to people. His reinterpretation was truly captivating, earning the love of many. Today's competition piece, Op.25, No.5, was also one he frequently performed. Chopin Etude Op. 25 No. 5. Second performer. His performance contained the joys and sorrows of life. When he played, people felt a sense of liberation and healing in a corner of their hearts. That's why I, too, loved Jo Jin-yeol's Chopin performances. Among the many orchestral performances I listened to while soaking in the bathtub, his competition videos were my favorite. That's why I challenged in the same direction. I could have tried to differentiate with Min Ki-won's pure color, but when else would I get to compete against Korea's strongest player under the same conditions? Min Ki-won had lost all interest in competitions now. Jo Jin-yeol's performance, brisk yet precarious. I painted his world in my mind. A barren field stained brown. A single ash tree growing incongruously amidst it. While everything around was dead, only he and the meadow surrounding him showed vitality. An ash tree that grows despite the harsh treatment from the world, in any barren environment. And Jo Jin-yeol's performance was about spreading that vitality everywhere. That's why I liked this person's performance. Unlike me, who eventually gave up, he overcame crises and grew. He spread his will to the world. Fully immersed in appreciation mode, I closed my eyes and entered a semi-sleep state. It felt like my body was melting, as if soaking in a bathtub. But despite his perfect performance and relieved expression, Jo Jin-yeol muttered resignedly in front of me as I was about to applaud. It seems I've lost. Chapter 127, Ta-da. You've actually been deceived. I think I've lost. What? What do you mean, mister? Jo Jin-yeol plopped down in the empty seat next to me and whispered in my ear. There are actually 4 judges today. Well, not exactly 4 people per se. This was news to me. I knew the number of judges had increased to 3, and that one of them was the director of ASOR Memories. But there was one more. Not exactly a person. We secretly invited 100 randomly selected long-term subscribers and significant donors of the Largissimo channel to a private live stream. What? When I shouted, Jin-yeol covered my mouth. SHH. Quiet. The judges don't know yet. Hidden camera shows are fundamentally about deceiving the judges. Like conducting auditions with a mix of professionals and amateurs to see if they can truly identify the professionals. Or surprising everyone by disguising a competition winner as a regular applicant. or inviting YouTubers with formal training for a lesson, then playing recordings by legendary masters like Professor Jang Jinsi to confuse them. Today's content was an extension of that concept. Mr. Yoon Guanchial seems to think this is a competition between us. I think he's greatly misunderstood. Perhaps he didn't look into it carefully because he dislikes YouTube. But wasn't it a competition? Inviting a YouTuber and a professional for a blind audition, evaluating them, and then revealing the winner to surprise everyone. As I put on a clueless expression, Jinyeol smiled brightly. From the professor's, the judge's perspective, that's how it will appear. But the part about the performers playing in the same order for both pieces was a lie. It was. His gaze shifted to the coordinator sitting with us, waiting for the next segment. I looked at her too. What's going on? The coordinator shrugged and smiled broadly. In short, I went first for the first piece, but Jinyeol would go first for the next one. I've been deceived. But how did you know all this, Mr. Joe? As he prepared for the next performance, he flexed his finger joints to relieve tension. Because I was the one who originally planned this content. Huh? I stared at him with a blank expression. He mouthed words only I could hear. In a way, Mr. Yoon Guanchial is like a ridiculous clown who walked onto the stage I set up of his own accord. Wait a minute. So, Jinyeol was the one who planned this content from the beginning, and since Yoon Guanchial didn't know who the opposing pianist would be, he deliberately chose Korea's most famous pianist, Jo Jinyeol. Somehow the situation just happened to align that way. How did this happen? This competition never had a winner or loser from the start. Only a tie was possible. If either side wins or loses, public opinion would form. See, YouTubers can't match professionals, or how could a professional lose to a YouTuber? That sort of thing. Jinyeol sighed briefly and shook his head. That would be problematic. I highly value I's performances. I don't know if you realized, but the account I showed you earlier was my secondary account. I've actually been a subscriber for a long time. He turned on his phone and showed me something. Subscription period, 30 months. On par with Yoon Jae Chang. I'm also acquainted with Yoon Guanchial's son, Jae Chang, so I couldn't help but know what was happening. I see it was brave of you to take on Yoon Guanchial alone. But I know Jinyeol's past. I know the background of his second-place finish at the competition. I've read his entire biography, so I know how their bad blood began. 2 is better than 1, and 3 is better than 2. He was genuinely concerned about me. He worried that I might make an enemy of an authoritative figure, creating a formidable adversary for my future, just as had happened to him. He's truly a good person. No wonder I've always admired his performances. So, let's make the broadcast competition end in a tie. Although competitions rank performers, music is relative, and evaluation cannot be absolute. Yet Jinyeol, who had reached the pinnacle, seemed to be still ruminating on his past defeat and preparing to challenge competitions again. In private, let's have a proper match. Of course, the outcome will remain between us. That's all well and good, but this means I can't arrange for Siwoo to meet Jinyeol. I was hoping to make that happen based on today's outcome. If I win that match, could you meet my friend? Siwoo? Yes. You remember the name well. They seemed important to you. Jae Chang mentioned them a few times too. It would be stranger if I didn't know. Jinyeol extended his hand to me as if offering a handshake. Let's do this. If I win our match, we'll have an official collaboration between Eclert and Jo Jinyeol. If you win, I'll meet your friend and provide thorough consultation and advice, as you wish. It was an offer I couldn't refuse. I enthusiastically shook his hand. Sounds good. Since we need to complete today's content anyway, let's switch the order and you go first. Rising from his seat, Jinyeol adjusted the collar of his black suit and said, and I meant it when I said I think I lost earlier. You're lying, right? With an enigmatic smile that concealed his true thoughts, Jin Yul replied, well, we'll find out properly when we compete again, won't we? Come on, don't lie. For three-headed archangel, I might have prepared even harder than for the competition. Why go that far? Because I wanted to beat I at least once in your specialty area. Seeing the sincerity in his eyes at that moment, I couldn't dismiss it as a lie. Today will certainly end in a tie. But I look forward to our next match. Just as you sharpened your skills wanting to beat me in classical music, I felt the same way. Thanks to the musical foundation Chaewon built and my own insights added to it, I, who had never placed in a competition, was now standing shoulder to shoulder with Korea's greatest pianist. Perhaps that's why I wanted to see Siwoo. I wanted to meet the tiny Chaewon residing within. I wanted to run to her, embrace her tightly, and thank her. You're truly professional. Jin Yul smiled and added one more comment. Honestly, the concept was a bit flawed. I is clearly a professional too. I had managed to keep my composure when we first met, but I couldn't bear the continued praise. With a flushed face and trembling voice, I muttered, if you keep praising me like that, it's troublesome. Do you know I could talk about your greatness for 4 hours straight? Oh, I understand your sentiment even without the praise, so please stop, otherwise I'll launch into a 4-hour essay about Jin Yul in front of everyone. As I fumed angrily, Jin Yul retreated toward the piano and said, I'll be careful. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. After they took turns playing the three-headed archangel BGM, the professors gave their evaluations of performers A and B. But as Jin Yul had mentioned earlier, the production team had lied about playing in the same order for different pieces. The order for the second piece was reversed from the first, with Jin Yul going first and Min Ki-won second. This created great confusion among the professors. More precisely, the confusion was experienced by Professor Yoon Hak-cheol alone. If there had been a clear skill gap, it would have been easier to distinguish them. But there was virtually no gap between the two in terms of technique and artistry. Who on earth is Jin Yul? They had clearly said the order would be the same, but somehow the second performance felt like the first and second performers had switched places. He tried to gauge Professor Baek Young-yeon's thoughts. I choose the first performer. As I mentioned before, I clearly felt the emotional range in the first performer's Chaewon. I'm not changing my decision. He confidently chose the first performer, as if stating that the first performer was Min Ki-won. Although it was impossible to distinguish by Ki-won's characteristic bright colors, since Three-Headed Archangel was a majestic piece full of rapid scales, there was a clear difference between their performances. One conveyed the raw flavor of a young performer. The other exuded the maturity of a seasoned player. Though relative and subtle, the mature one was surely Jin Yul. And in Yoon Hak-cheol's mind, the mature one was the second performer in both the Chaewon and Three-Headed Archangel performances. Having made his decision, he wrote the winner on a whiteboard and held it up. Second performer. Well, the two professors have made different choices. Director, you chose the second performer? Why? I've listened to the original Three-Headed Archangel many times, and I think the second performer reproduced the original more accurately. I see. Baek Young-yeon's expression soured at director Ha Young-jin's choice of the second performer. Though it seemed like acting, the final score was second performer 2 vs first performer 1. Yoon Hak-cheol sensed victory. Through today's competition, he would secure the money he needed, and Yoon Gwancheol would get Min Ki-won. However, there was actually one more judge today. But with the host's knowing smile, both professors' eyes widened in surprise. Chapter 128, Buddha's Palm. However, there was actually one more judge with us today. Soon, a TV protruding in front of the judges' seats revealed a panel of 100 judges. First performer, 47/second performer, 53. Though they were both surprised by the sudden addition of judges, Yoon Hak-cheol noticed Baek Young-yeon's visibly tense expression. It was a narrow margin, but this meant the second performer now had a complete advantage of 3:1. This was the moment when Min Ki-won's defeat seemed certain. Yoon Hak-cheol secretly rejoiced. Baek Young-yeon seemed to be suppressing his discomfort while waiting for the identities of the first and second performers to be revealed. Well then, now we should reveal the identities of the first and second performers. Piano music began again from behind the screen. It was the second performer's Chaewon. First, the first performer. The mature performance expressing complex emotions sweetly tickled the judge's ears. Yoon Hak-cheol was enjoying the performance when suddenly he asked the host in surprise. Wait a minute. That's not the first performer, isn't this the second performer? Baek Young-yeon felt the same way. That's right. This is definitely the second performer's Chaewon. I remember it clearly. The host clapped his hands in admiration. Wow, you recognized it right away. As expected of our country's top professors. I was waiting for such precise evaluations. Now it was time for the host to correct his statement about the first performer. Of course, when playing Chaewon, this was indeed the second performer. But the Chaewon performance abruptly stopped, suddenly transitioning to the background music of the three-headed archangel. It was a dazzling fast passage that Yoon Hak-cheol had evaluated as having a raw, authentic flavor. The performance he had definitely judged to be Min Ki-won's. When performing the three-headed archangel, this was the first performer. Now, let me introduce today's professional pianist, Mr. Jo Jin-yeol. However, when the screen was lifted, shockingly, it was Jo Jin-yeol who appeared. Yoon Hak-cheol had to doubt his own eyes. His ears as well. This is Jo Jin-yeol? It was unbelievable. Had he really evaluated a clerk's performance as more mature? He had expected there might be some trickery with the order of performances, but the performances themselves were real. It was inconceivable. Now, let's listen again to the second performer of the three-headed archangel and the first performer of Chaewon, shall we? As the piano sound gradually faded, the screen once again separated the two spaces. The sound of two people's footsteps crossing over the piano bench could be heard. And then, the three-headed archangel performance began. The very performance that Yoon Hak-cheol had praised as mature. The performer behind the screen showed once again the dramatic emotional range in the following Chaewon piece. Anxiety and unease, stability and peace, the emptiness of a mere dream, yet ultimately concluding with an open ending. A complete story was perfectly portrayed. It was like singing the life of a person. That was a clerk. Looking at Yoon Hak-cheol, who stood with his mouth agape, unable to speak, Professor Baek Young-yeon, who had been tense throughout, smirked. Are you surprised? The cameras were still rolling. Any question he might ask would reveal that he was here as Yoon Gwan-cheol's man. In front of the cameras, he had to maintain at least a broadcast-appropriate demeanor. I'm truly surprised. I never dreamed there would be such a performer outside the mainstream. Yoon Hak-cheol didn't get what he wanted. Of course, Yoon Gwan-cheol had said he would only pay if Jo Jin-yeol won. However, his mood, which should have been empty and deflated, somehow burned even brighter after the content filming ended. It was natural. As a professor, it was right to admire and show interest in the emergence of a new talent that would surprise the world and to applaud them. Brother, you knew, didn't you? Knew what? That they switched the order. Yes. Your surprised expression was all acting. If not for Yoon Gwan-cheol between them, they were actually colleagues who often met and talked as piano professors at different universities. Since Baek Young-yeon was slightly older, Yoon Hak-cheol usually called him brother. Certainly, as Yoon Hak-cheol said, Baek Young-yeon had noticed the largissimo team's plan to invalidate the competition itself from the middle. It was obvious when they revealed there was one more judge, but the dramatic production was so elaborate that anyone who wasn't a regular viewer of this channel's content would have noticed. It was evident they were trying to avoid a situation where either side would be publicly criticized as lacking skill. Honestly, I didn't expect a fourth judge to appear. That really surprised me. But I kind of figured out the switching of performers. I was the only one who didn't know. Perhaps my learning is still insufficient. It's not about being insufficient. Isn't it because you only heard what you wanted to hear? That was true. Yoon Hakcheol had been desperate to figure out which of the two people behind the screen was Jo Jin-yeol. Rather than trying to interpret and understand each performance, he had focused solely on which one was closer to Jo Jin-yeol. There was no time to properly appreciate the music. Naturally, unlike Baek Kyung-yeon, he didn't notice that the first and second performances had been mixed up. Of course, the main reason was that Min Ki-won had shown an unbelievable performance. By the way, no, that child Min Ki-won. Her performance feels completely different from typical students her age. I naturally thought it was professional Jo Jin-yeol's performance. I never imagined it wasn't. You saw her when she was young, didn't you? Me. This guy. You spent 2 hours drinking and talking about how you wanted to take her as your student when she grew up. Was that so? Yoon Hakcheol searched his memory, recalling a trip to Austria about 14 years ago. Could it be conductor Min Seok-hyun's daughter? Correct. But I heard she was shut in her room and wouldn't come out. When did she come to Korea? Seems like early this year. The Kang HWI Cultural Foundation is owned by conductor Min Seok-hyun and his wife, right? They probably sent her as a representative when building the Korean Center. They're busy with concerts and tours these days. Wow, she's grown so much. That little child. 14 years is enough time for mountains and rivers to change. However, what Yoon Hakcheol still couldn't understand was why such an amazing performer was just holed up in her room, only uploading videos to the internet. With Min Ki-won's level of skill, she could have swept competitions. Her extraordinary talent beyond her years would surely captivate all judges. You're thinking, why isn't a child like that eyeing competitions instead of quietly making YouTube videos at home, right? I can't lie. I briefly thought that too, but it's an outdated perspective. In the past, to enjoy music, one had to go to social gatherings, and performers who stood out there received patronage from nobles or wealthy individuals, advancing to broader stages. Large halls and numerous audiences brought more popularity, which was a necessary course of business for those sponsoring performers. But times have changed. Culture has changed. Now, one can access classical music and showcase their performances to people without necessarily attending social gatherings. Business people and sponsors also support performers in virtual spaces, unrestricted by physical distance. Their businesses expand online, and as they broaden their fields, special concerts for fans are eventually held. While most musicians still follow the conventional path, graduating from music school, winning competitions, going on concert tours, or joining orchestras, there are also people like Min Ki-won who build their own castles in their own worlds, mingling with their own people. If one were to make a comparison, she would be a modern version of a minstrel wandering the world sharing music. The world keeps changing. Rather than stubbornly imposing something on kids, it's best to support what they want to do while filtering out only the dangerous things. How can we know what's dangerous, what's substantial, and what's hollow? As we age, we should be able to tell. It's already hard enough to communicate with kids if you don't communicate. Are you going to stop being a professor? Good grief, Hakcheol Sichai. Wake up, wake up. See Sichai? It means study, you fool. How can someone who teaches kids not understand them? If you don't want to be the first to get fired, that is. Got it? First to get fired. We're not on the same page. Baek Kyung-yeon clicked his tongue and handed over a memo pad and a pen. What's this? Your account number and amount. Write down how much you need. What? No, why would you? I mean, how did you know? Yoon Hakcheol's eyes trembled in surprise. Baek Kyung-yeon made a large circle with both hands, holding up the air. To Yoon Hakcheol, he looked like a bodhisattva who had reached enlightenment. However, the words coming from the kind bodhisattva's mouth were as stinging as the crack of a whip. What kind of person are you, not having changed since your late 20s? Did you spend a large sum of money again? Without any preparation. Chapter 129. Underestimate me and you'll get hurt badly. What kind of guy are you that you haven't changed since your late 20s? Did you blow a bunch of money again? Without any preparation. Yoon Hakshul scratched the back of his neck with a sigh. I'm sending my daughter to study abroad. I can't just send her alone. So I want to send my wife too, but it costs a fortune. Did you bury all the money you've earned so far? Bury? No, I've been saving it all up for my daughter's house and marriage fund when she grows up. Ugh, you trash. So you had money and pretended you didn't? I can't pull out my investment funds right now. What am I supposed to do without liquid cash? When Beek tried to snatch back the note he had handed over, Yoon Hakshul blocked his hand by turning his shoulder. Come on. If you said you'd give it, just give it. It's useless if you don't put money in that account, you idiot. The two grown men wrestled like high school students before breaking into laughter at the absurdity of it all. Shinwoo Bank XXXXXXXXXXXX 10 million won. Baekhyun was shocked at the amount written on the note. This could be easily solved with a loan. I've exceeded my bank limit. What kind of financial management are you doing that's ruining your household? It all went to school scholarships. It's not my money anymore. But in the end, what Yoon Hakshul wanted was the future of the music world. An environment where young performers could practice with peace of mind. And this guy wants to help block Min Ki-won's life. Baekhyun couldn't hold back anymore and kicked Yoon Hakshul in the behind. You won't be able to walk home today. Don't bring out your youthful violence. I'll report you to the police. You think that'll stop me from hitting you? Come here. Ah, ouch. The two men, who had been jumping around, soon felt the limits of their stamina and joints as they panted. Clutching his knees and bending over, Baekhyun said, You bastard, if Yoon Gwanchul does anything weird again, report it to me immediately. Got it? Lying flat on the ground, Yoon Hakshul replied, Why should I do that, sir, if you don't? Damn it. There will be more victims, I know. There's no need for that now. I'll stop him. I don't want our family business spread all over town. What family business? Don't you know even cousins are strangers these days? Even parents and children cut ties when they feel like it. We haven't cut ties yet. That's why it has to be now. At least Yoon Gwanchul's family has a chance to return to normal. Yoon Ji-yu and Yoon Ji-chang may hate their father, but they haven't left home completely. If he were truly the worst garbage, they would have run away and never wanted to see his face again. The same was true for Jin Sebyok. Perhaps Sebyok might even pity Yoon Gwanchul. She had left a few regretful words to Yoon Hakshul, who was her mentor when she was disowned, saying that the man had fallen apart after his wife's death. What's done cannot be undone, but mistakes must be corrected, even if it means atoning for them for the rest of one's life. Things had to be set right while they still could be. I'll handle it before reporting to you. Baekhyun muttered, biting his lip. Will Yoon Gwanchul listen? Not easily. But not easily doesn't mean never. He'll come around eventually. I've known him for a long time. I know his weaknesses. Probably Yoon Hakshul's words would have more influence than those of Baekhyun, with whom he had a bad relationship. With no choice, Baekhyun sighed deeply and threw the crumpled note he was holding to Yoon Hakshul. Ah, did you change your mind? You said you'd give me money. Wait a minute. Baekhyun took out another note from his pocket and handed it to Yoon Hakshul along with a pen. Write down your wife's account. What? And write down exactly how much you need, itemized by category. Why go to such lengths? I know you'll just buy golf clubs with any leftover money. How can I just give it to you? I won't buy any. Don't be ridiculous. I can see you getting excited about playing golf alone when your wife and daughter go abroad. I don't pay for my own rounds. Why would I do that when the foundation arranges everything for me? Aha. So you're embezzling from the foundation? No, I'm not. I pay for everything myself. You worm. I can't forgive you. You need another beating. W worm? Vermin, you idiot. Vermin. Beak Yunlin's kick flew fiercely. Yoon Hakchul jumped up with the note and pen. Come on. Aren't you making too much use of that taekwondo class you took in college? Effective, isn't it? It hurts, I tell you. After the filming, I was invited to a dinner arranged by Jo Jinul. I thought it would be with the professors, but to my surprise, it was a private dining experience for just the two of us. The interior had the feel of a wooden terrace at night, making me think I'd like to come back here with Siwoo someday. You worked hard. No, you did too, senior. To celebrate our successful filming, Jo Jinul ordered wine, while I ordered a non-alcoholic mojito for a light toast. Ting! I brought the glass that made a pretty sound to my lips. Slurp! The tangy fruit carbonation richly enveloped my tongue. So, when shall we have our competition? Before the food arrived, I quickly asked about our competition schedule, thinking we should finish this conversation early. After checking his phone calendar for a while, Jo Jinul said, "How about August 14th? It was a day with no particular plans. I accepted his proposal without hesitation. Sounds good. Where? Let's do it at Baekhyun Hall. Baekhyun Hall. The most familiar place. Since Jo Jinul is also a graduate of Hany University, he chose a place that's comfortable for both of us. And I was thinking of asking Professor Baekhyun to be the evaluator. That's fine." Seeing me agree so readily, Jo Jinul tilted his head. Aren't you accepting too easily? I could have chosen a biased judge who would favor me. Ah, that's right. Professor Baekhyun isn't Min Ki-won's mentor yet. We've only known each other for a few months, so immediately agreeing might seem strange. I don't think you're trying to take advantage of me, senior. Jo Jinul burst out laughing at that. Haha, that's right. I have no reason to take advantage of my cute junior. My word choice was a bit crude, but you know what I mean. I was simply speaking based on rational grounds. I respect you very much, senior. I've watched your concert videos very often. You said you're my fan, but I'm your fan too. So if you want, we can collaborate anytime. But you specifically wanted to compete in piano skills and collaborate if I win. And now you'd go out of your way to choose a biased judge? It's too much trouble. There's no reason to go that far. You must be busy too. I don't think there's any need to go to such lengths. Jo Jinul smiled and gave an example. Then what about Yoon Gwanchul, who does such bad things despite being busy? That person must have neglected his own concert preparation. How can someone who should be busy performing pay attention to such unnecessary things? True. People have been saying his performances lack the dignity they once had. Right? That's what I'm saying. When a performer gets distracted and neglects their main profession, it naturally affects their performance. Humans' cognitive and motor skills decline with age, and instead of working hard to overcome that, he's engaging in underhanded schemes. For someone called the pinnacle of the violin world, he's a shamefully embarrassing performer. He should change his mindset as soon as possible and let go of his obsession with his children. That's the only way he won't disappoint the audience who comes to hear him play. I've arranged to meet him again next week. Jo Jinul looked at me with concern and asked, "Will you be okay?" "What do you mean?" "I don't think he'll accept the results. Knowing Yoon Gwanchul, he might resort to even more underhanded methods. In case of a tie or Min Ki-won's victory, Yoon Gwanchul will produce an apology video to Min Ki-won and Channel Accurate subscribers and upload it to Channel Accurate." I completely agreed with Jo Jinul's thoughts. That's just the kind of man he is. But there's a contract with his fingerprint on it, so there's no room for excuses on this matter. And I didn't write up a contract just to make such troublesome demands. I have everything planned out, so don't worry. Chapter 130. We need to talk just as Mr. Jo Jinul had been at the top of that wicked old man's head. I, too, saw the future. In a way, I should be grateful to Yoon Jae-yu. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have learned in advance that Mr. Yoon Guancheol was a petty person with only a shiny exterior but a heart the size of a bean. There was no deadline for when to upload it. I'm very busy. It might be difficult for a while. See that? What a bad adult, not even properly fulfilling the simple task of recording and uploading an apology video. But since I had anticipated this situation, I wasn't flustered at all. Why would I be? I've experienced Yoon Jae-yu's mirroring of Mr. Yoon Guancheol enough times. I see. Then, perhaps I could change what you need to fulfill. Now, my Hitori-chan act is over. I gazed at Mr. Yoon Guancheol with profound eyes. It seems you're concerned about your reputation. He should be surprised by my sudden change, but strangely, Mr. Yoon Guancheol's expression didn't change at all. Reputation? I'm not concerned about that at all. Sure. Whatever you say. Just look at this and decide. Smiling, I unfolded a piece of paper I had prepared in advance. Change of terms. In case of a tie or Min Ki-won's victory, Yoon Guancheol will not interfere with the music education of his daughter Yoon Jae-yu and son Yoon Jae-chang. The brow of Mr. Yoon Guancheol, who had maintained a poker face all along, finally wrinkled. Much more severely than when I refused because I was too busy with my new tube channel. Do you understand what you're saying right now? Yes. You seem to know our family quite well. Better than you might think. A short sigh. Then a hollow laugh. Mr. Yoon Guancheol, who had been rubbing his brow, shouted loudly. Sil, you shouldn't say such things. What on earth did your parents teach you? My body startled at his loud voice, but I quickly regained my composure at the mention of my parents. Well, I suppose this is how he feels. I can understand why he's upset. But since this wasn't too different from what I had expected, I calmly removed a sticker I had placed at the bottom of the paper. This revealed the rest of the hidden contract terms. Change of terms. In case of a tie or Min Ki-won's victory, Yoon Guancheol will not interfere with the music education of his daughter Yoon Jae-yu and son Yoon Jae-chang. In return, Min Ki-won will serve as Yoon Jae-yu's accompanist until she quits her career as a performer, except in emergencies. If needed, she will also help with Yoon Jae-chang's piano lessons. When I show generosity to the person I'm dealing with, a petty person appears even more petty. That's probably what Mr. Yoon Guancheol is feeling right now. This Yoon Jae-chang was my precious friend in my past life. Now, he's my precious fan and Siwoo's friend. That's why neither I nor Siwoo want him to walk the wrong path. What about Yoon Jae-yu? The time when I defined her as evil has passed. Now I know that the real culprit is her father. You're quite confident. If Jae-chang were the type to say yes and rush to sit at the piano when asked to take lessons, I would certainly have done this. But that's never happened. He'll come if I call him. What? If I call him, he'll definitely come for lessons. Assuming you don't use violence and don't nag Yoon Jae-chang. You brat. Though he rose in anger, slamming the table, he didn't lay a hand on me. He seems quite angry, but it appears he can't cross the line of using violence against someone else's daughter. So, what are you trying to say? That if you help Yoon Jae-chang, you can make him win a competition next year. Is that what you're trying to say? It might be possible. We'll have to try to find out. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. This is ridiculous. Having calmed down a bit, he casually drank the steaming coffee from his mug. Fine. Shall we write a new contract and make another bet? Whether Jae-chang places in a competition or not. What will you stake then? Your life. Why? Do you want me to marry Yoon Jae-chang if I lose? I guess you might want that. It would make it easier for me to stay by Jae-yu's side. If I support him well, Yoon Jae-chang might become a world-class pianist. The mug landed with a clatter on the glass table. I smiled brightly as I watched Mr. Yoon Guanchial's expression begin to crumble. Wow. You just thought that made some sense, didn't you? It's written all over your face. No. Yes, you did. Don't pretend you didn't. Don't mock your elders. If you slam it like that, the cup will break. I took away his trembling cup that was rattling. If the table breaks now, I might not get hurt, but he would. No matter how bad a person he is, his performance, the people who come to hear his concerts, they've done nothing wrong. Having had his cup taken away, Mr. Yoon Guanchial sank back into the sofa. His hands, placed over his eyes, trembled. Ah, really, ha. Everyone, what makes them so great that they so boldly give me such absurd advice then? A laughter filled with madness echoed throughout the living room. Ha Q ha. No, why is everyone so interested in our family affairs? Ha. 3 days ago. The student. Don't you think she's too young to be tormented in an adult way? Joe Jinyol had vowed not to make enemies of adults anymore. But he couldn't keep that promise. What did you just say? Ah. Nothing. Please don't mind it. I misspoke. A few words could have caused serious problems with performances with domestic orchestras. That's how significant Mr. Yoon Guanchial's influence was in the orchestral world. But he couldn't bear it. Even if his own path might be blocked, he couldn't stand by and watch a shining supernova fade helplessly before his eyes. Students. They don't listen well when you just talk to them. They'll likely resist and might break. Joe Jinyol, if you know something, say it clearly. Ah, I was like that when I was young. Ha. Joe Jinyol's great risk. After hearing this, Yoon Guanchial didn't retaliate against Joe Jinyol, but a small crack formed in his heart. 2 days ago. Brother Guanchial. Just asking, but that alert kid. Wouldn't it be better to back off now? What are you suddenly talking about? No, I mean, if the kid suddenly turns on you, what if she bites you? You have more to lose, brother. Do you think I would do this out of worry for such things? If I thought she would bite, I wouldn't have tried in the first place. Yoon Hakxial watched Yoon Guanchial's reaction for a while before finally speaking again. If it's because of your wife, you don't have to. A piercing gaze flew at him. Yoon Hakxial's mouth froze. The atmosphere wouldn't allow him to say anything more. Forget what I just said. I'm sorry, brother. But still, why are you so obsessed with someone else's child? If you're going to talk nonsense, leave. Okay, sorry. I'll go. Can't you give me some money? He wouldn't really stab him, but it was too painful to just stand by and watch. Yoon Hakxial cautiously left. As soon as the front door closed, Yoon Guanchial sighed deeply, sinking completely into the sofa. Hanul. Honey, in his closed eyes, he saw the face of his wife who had passed away long ago. It wasn't much different today, during his conversation with Min Ki-won. After laughing like a madman and wiping his face, he saw his wife. Please take care of the children, dear. That dream we talked about. Don't be too fixated on it. Just like us, I hope our children love music. Just like us, I hope one plays the violin and the other plays the piano. But if the 2 children, his wife had clearly said something important, but it was too long ago to remember. Perhaps Yoon Guanchial had accidentally washed away those memories along with the pain of losing his wife. He shouldn't have done that. How could he make such a mistake? What did you say, honey? I can't remember. Yoon Guanchial's parents didn't approve of Cha Hanul. They started dating and wanted to marry, but it was impossible for Yoon Guanchial to persuade his parents alone. The reason was Cha Hanul's background. She was an orphan who grew up without parents. His parents were generous about Yoon Guanchial's love for music, but they were absolutely inflexible about marriage for the family's prosperity. When persuasion became difficult, Yoon Guanchial told Cha Hanul that they should just travel far away together, that there were many places to live besides Korea. That's when Cha Hanul said, running away is fine and fighting for it is fine too. But if we do that, someone gets hurt. Either you or your parents. Honestly, since I'm the unwelcome one, I thought maybe I should just step aside. But I don't think I can do that. I love you too much. It would be too hard. Because humans could use language, unlike animals, they could resolve issues through dialogue rather than barbaric methods. Otherwise, they would have long ago destroyed themselves fighting each other. After saying some nonsense, Cha Hanul said this: if you don't talk properly, some problems will never be solved. So, I'll talk to your parents directly. If you don't talk properly, some problems will never be solved. It was like hearing an auditory hallucination. His wife was dead, yet it felt as if she were alive and speaking. That's why I keep requesting to talk like this. Mr. Yoon, please don't think I'm being impudent. Please engage in this conversation. Ding, ding. Along with the sound of the wind chime on the front door, someone rushed into the living room. Chaewon. I left half my ramen and ran here. It was the disobedient son, startled as he faced his father's fierce glare. It was Yoon Jae-chang. Chapter 131. Dawn. The wind chime on the front door jingled as someone rushed into the living room, panting. Chaewon. I left half my ramen behind to rush over here. It was the disobedient son, Yoon Jae-chang, startled as he came face to face with his father's stern glare. Oh, I'll just go to my room. As Jae-chang tried to sneak away, a stern voice stopped him in his tracks. Sit down here. The atmosphere was heavy. Was this what gravity felt like when returning to Earth after bouncing around on the moon? Of course, this only applied to Yoon Jae-chang. Realizing that Mr. Yoon Guancheol wasn't much different from Yoon Ji-yu, I found myself becoming more at ease. So, is someone else coming next? Ding dong. Instead of a xylophone, the wind chime at the doorway rang again. Everyone fell silent, waiting for the owner of the light footsteps to appear. And it was none other than Yoon Ji-yu, grimacing in horror at the sight of the three people gathered. But upon realizing she was in front of her father, she quickly fixed her expression. Why is everyone gathered here? Having both Mr. Yoon Guancheol and Yoon Jae-chang in the same room would be suffocating enough, but with me there too? Truly a shocking experience. If she was overlapping Jin Sebyok with me in her mind, this situation might trigger serious PTSD for Ji-yu. But she didn't run away. As if surprised that such an opportunity had presented itself. You sit down too. Ji-yu and Jae-chang sat side by side on the long sofa next to Mr. Yoon Guancheol, who exuded an atmosphere of having something important to discuss. And then surprisingly, no one said a word. The three family members turned their eyes toward me. Their gazes seemed to be asking for help. I guess I had to take on the role of facilitator. Shall we continue our conversation? Feel free to speak your mind. Yes. Then could you wait just a little longer? I smiled gently at Ji-yu. It was a brief apology for deceiving her all this time. I'll properly apologize later, but for now, I couldn't explain everything in detail. Just then, the clear sound of the wind chime rang out from the entrance once more. The last guest, slightly late, had arrived. Everyone turned in surprise toward the hallway leading to the entrance. Mom pink socks peeking out on the living room floor wiggled slightly. Though barely audible, the girl behind the wall seemed frightened, continuously muttering something to herself. Just taking a quick peek. Being closest to the hallway, I could hear those words. A moment later, pink hair flowed down as Jin Sebyok slowly poked her head around the corner. Eek! Sebyok fell back in shock. She clearly hadn't expected four people to be staring at her simultaneously. I got up and approached her. I'm sorry for startling you. And no, it's fine. Wasn't I the only one called today? Ji-yu's eyes reddened as she looked at Sebyok. She was trying hard not to cry. That was a lie. I called everyone because there's something we need to discuss together. Mom. Her gaze briefly darted toward Guanqiao before fixing back on the floor. Understanding her discomfort, I slowly helped her to her feet. I honestly struggled with whether I should speak directly or not. That was a lie. I hadn't actually struggled with the decision. Regardless of the reason, Mr. Yoon Guanqial's one-sided communication style was problematic. Because of Mr. Yoon Guanqial, this family had been disconnected from proper dialogue for a long time. Words were exchanged, but just because sentences formed from letters and words come out of one's mouth doesn't make it a conversation. True conversation requires empathy between the parties involved regarding the subject. It was time to end both Mr. Yoon Guanqial's one-sided instructions and the resigned listening on the receiving end. I had observed happy family conversations for a long time, and for just as long, I had felt the absence of such a family. It might be impossible for some to reconcile. Certainly, some families are like that. But Mr. Yoon Guanqial's family only carried wounds that could still be healed. If left as is, they might tear completely, but recovery was still possible. Now was the right time to tend to those wounds. I first asked Sibyok, what do you think of your uncle? Me. So suddenly, I asked again as she stammered in confusion. Yes. Like, I hate him. I despise him. I don't want to see him. I wish he'd disappear from my sight forever. Those kinds of things. Mr. Yoon Guanqial's gaze was piercing, but he held back without reacting. Now was Sibyok's time to speak. I was merely nudging her to draw out her true feelings. If someone were watching this situation, they might wonder. There's Jiyu, who speaks well and is full of rebellion against her father. There's Jicheng, who could be easily manipulated. Why choose Sibyok as the first speaker? And no, my dad, he was mean to me. He threatened my mom. He threatened me too, but he wasn't a complete monster. Oh, this is why I waited for her to say these words. Despite her hesitation, she was one of the few people who completely revealed her true feelings. Isn't that remarkable? How many people in the world wouldn't find it difficult to speak frankly in front of an adult, especially one with considerable authority? Sibyok says everything she needs to say, even if she tries to smooth it over afterward. She was brave. Just like Hitori-chan. Did you face something like a restraining order? He held my mom's hospital bills over our heads, so we had no choice. I don't mean that Dad was a bad person who played around with Mom's hospital bills. The more she tried to fix her words, the more direct and explicit they became. But both Jiyu, who had been glaring at me with fierce eyes, and Jicheng, who had been blinking in confusion, they seemed to realize something as Sibyok continued speaking. Dad, he had his reasons for everything. Yes, he was mean, but I understand. When I see Dad, I think of Mom. I can understand. It's just that his methods were a bit rough and harsh. Dad. Sibyok still considered Mr. Yoon Guanqial her father. Despite suffering such harsh treatment and being disowned to become a child without a father, she didn't resent him. She believed it was because of her own inadequacy, and she couldn't forget the happy days they had spent as a family. To Sibyok, or rather Yoon Sibyok, Yoon Guanqial was her eternal father. That was the truth. Due to some unknown incident, Mr. Yoon Guanqial had suddenly changed. Until then, they had been a happy family. Jiyu, Jicheng, and Sibyok all said the same thing, that there had been a happy period, that they never expected things to turn out this way. Given what they've been through, forgiving their father won't be easy. Returning to their happy past won't be easy either. But since Jiyu and Jicheng care for Sibyok as their older sister and brother, if Sibyok wishes for it, wouldn't they be willing to make some sacrifices for her happiness? Repairing broken relationships, mending the cracks. If there's something they don't like, they might speak up clearly rather than enduring it like before. Moving forward steadily with Sibyok at the lead, like today. Of course, this is only possible if Mr. Yoon Guanqiao lets go of his obsession and seeks forgiveness. He needs to gather courage to apologize to the children, to be the first to suggest returning to the past. Forgiveness is the privilege of the 3 children, but asking for forgiveness is the privilege of their father, Mr. Yoon Guanqiao. Am I being meddlesome? Was this too much? Did I have to go this far? I've thought about this quite often before coming here today. Because they're not a family that needs to sever ties completely. They're a family that can embrace each other and live happier lives. Because they can be the only people in this world who will never betray you, who will always be on your side. Thanks to Professor Beak and his wife, I didn't face major inconveniences in life. But still, I didn't want them to become like me, unable to truly trust anyone but themselves. Sibyok. Yes. Yes. Yoon Guanqiao murmured in a low voice. You were a performer who didn't meet my standards. Your skills were terrible. Watching you made me feel unbearably frustrated. I'm sorry, so I drove you out. I didn't want you to remain a stain on this family. And yet, startled by his thundering voice, Sibyok closed her eyes and curled up. Guanqiao waited until she opened her eyes again. Then, for the first time in a very long time, he spoke in a gentle tone. And yet, you still think of me as your father, though still wary. Sibyok didn't hide her emotions. That's the kind of person she was. I was grateful Sibyok was here. Mom told me my real dad ran away after I was born. With trembling hands, she embraced Guanqiao, who had lowered his head. But you gave me nice clothes, fed me delicious food, showed me wonderful things, and even paid for my sick mom's medical bills. To me, you're my only dad. Chapter 132, Time to set things right. What do you think, Appa? About what? Our kids, you know. Do you think they'll like music? Of course they will. Whose children are they, after all? There was such certainty that if both parents made music their profession, naturally their children would do the same. And there was this resolve. Just as their parents had done for them, they would actively support whatever their children wanted to do. Is violin difficult? Do your fingers hurt at first? Dad, I want to play piano like Mom. Ask Mom to teach you. She'd love that. I don't know, Sibyok. You can take your time and decide after watching your siblings. It's okay if you don't want to do it at all. The children loved music. They had been exposed to music even before birth. On birthdays, they were serenaded with violin and piano performances. When possible, friends were invited to duet concerts to create an environment where everyone could enjoy music together. The couple had completely immersed their children's environment in the music they so dearly loved. Dad, I won an award. Well done. That's my daughter. Is this good? It's amazing. Just don't say that in front of your friends. I love the piano. I'm glad you love it. How about trying another piece? But the lives of these children, nurtured and blossomed through music stage 4. Surgery is possible. However, the survival rate is extremely low. Think it over, and let me know when you're mentally prepared. The tree that had blocked the scorching midday sun fell and began to burn and oxidize under the intense ultraviolet rays. What about getting the surgery? The survival rate is slim, but still, thinking about the kids, right? Despite repeated attempts at persuasion, in the end, the man could not change his wife's mind. If we're going to do it, it needs to be done immediately. But what if you suddenly die? What would we tell the children? Since I have about a month left, wouldn't it be better to spend that time with the children and prepare them for goodbye? But, honey, yes. I know what you want to say. The man wanted to gloss over difficult explanations to the children. The woman believed that, difficult as it might be, they must resolve everything through conversation and help the children understand before saying goodbye. Just as during their dating days when they hit roadblocks, this time too, their opinions were sharply divided. But just like then, the man was destined to lose. He couldn't stop his wife. No, he chose not to stop her. The dialogue his wife advocated for bridging differences had always worked. There was no reason to dismiss the children by assuming they wouldn't understand. Though growing under their parents' shadow, the children were already individuals in their own right. Their young hearts might be shocked, but it was obvious which would provide more emotional stability in the future, lying to them or having an honest conversation. I'll miss you, Mom. Hei. Heiang sis asterisk hiccup asterisk I'll wait with sis Huiai. Heiang. The children suffered when they learned the truth. It was only natural. The truth was difficult for them to accept. For children barely 10 years old, the sudden disappearance of a mother who had always seemed like she would be there to love them was an unspeakably immense trial. But even with their still developing sense of self, I'll take care of Jicheng and Sibyok. They knew how to humbly accept death and calmly walk toward the future. Some might say it's not good for emotional development. Some might say such a choice is too harsh for children. But weren't these their own flesh and blood? If they couldn't trust their own children, who could they trust? Mom, watch over us from there. We'll show you how amazing we become, I promise. Cha Hanul, who had been holding back tears until just before the conversation, finally broke down sobbing at the mature comfort from his 11-year-old daughter. Please take care of the children, honey. That dream we talked about, remember? Don't get too fixated on it. Just as we did, I hope our children will love music. Just as we did, I hope one will play the violin and one will play the piano. If the kids say they can't play music after I'm gone, could that dream still come true after the death of their mother, who had been the music in their lives? If the children couldn't bear it and gave up music, what should their father do then? Would you just let them give it up completely? Life isn't just one path, you know. Letting go would be right. If playing music made the children think of their mother, if it made them sad and unable to escape their mental anguish, he should let them put it down, guide them to other paths, until the years of memories attached to those instruments could be transformed into fond recollections. He needed to embrace and comfort them. But, did you just play that? Oh, sorry, Dad. I just suddenly thought of Mom Yoon Jicheng playing solo. Appa, won't Dad be upset if he finds out it's okay? He heard before and didn't say anything. To Yoon Jicheng and Jin Sibyok playing together. Help me practice. It feels empty without Mom's playing. Leave it to me. To Yoon Ji-yu and Yoon Jicheng playing duets. He kept seeing visions of his wife and himself happy beside her. It was strange. The children quickly recovered and strove to become excellent musicians, remembering their mother's performances. But he couldn't bear to watch it. It was painful. It was difficult to suppress the urge to make them stop playing. His wife's words about helping them give up music if they said they couldn't do it slowly twisted in Yoon Guanqiao's mind, taking on a different meaning. Stop it. Why so suddenly stop it? I don't want to stop it. Yes, should I please stop? Stop it. 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 The more he heard his wife's playing, the more Yoon Guanqiao's mind deteriorated. Cha Hanul was dead. The wife he loved most had died and turned to ashes. Yet the sound of Cha Hanul's piano constantly echoed through the house. Yoon Jicheng added his own color to memories with his mother, ruining them. Jin Sibyok's playing was precarious, desperately trying to follow her mother. If they were going to keep playing, they should at least play perfectly like his wife. That would be less painful. Why were they all so disorderly? Why couldn't he just watch quietly? Yoon Jicheng. Yes. Do you want to play like your mother? He had promised that the children's music was their own, and he shouldn't interfere. Yes. I want to be like Mom. I'm sorry, honey. I don't think I can keep that promise. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. My mom really told me that my dad ran away after I was born. With trembling hands, she embraced Yoon Guancheol as he hung his head. But Dad, you gave me nice clothes, fed me delicious food, showed me wonderful things, and even paid for my sick mother's medical bills. To me, you're my only dad. The tension that had filled the living room rapidly dissipated. Tears of atonement soaked the carpet. The spreading water stain seemed to represent the concern in everyone's hearts. Of course I think it was too much when you kicked me out. Well, I wasn't really family to begin with, so I guess it didn't matter, but don't you want to take it back now? I keep thinking about Sis and Opat Sibyuk's tactless wish. Her sister and brother also gritted their teeth. For a touching family reunion, too much was broken and twisted. Both Yoon Ji-yu and Yoon Ji-cheng thought their father should bow his head and apologize to be forgiven. Perhaps that wasn't the case. The chain of hatred that began with Yoon Guancheol might have seemed larger than it was, exaggerated by the absence of communication. Sibyuk, you shouldn't ask for things like that. That's right. You should get what you deserve. We're strangers now. The siblings, seizing the opportunity to add to Sibyuk's words, still seemed to struggle with their emotions. But they needed to move forward. What they wanted had been consistent from the beginning: to become musicians their mother would be proud of, to achieve results that would please their mother in heaven, to show their mother the image of a harmonious family. So, what do we do now? Grabbing their father's shoulders as he sat on the floor, the siblings insisted through tearful voices. Make him apologize in front of Mom. Of course he should apologize to Mom. The sobbing Mr. Yoon Guancheol was supported by his son and daughter as they led him to the room that had been firmly closed and never opened. Jin Sibyuk hurried after them, then turned back to me and said, could you wait a moment? It was the first time I'd seen Sibyuk smile brightly without a trace of sadness. Our family needs to talk. Chapter 133. My little pianist. I could have stayed at home and continued to monitor the situation, but I deliberately chose not to. Since the family was prepared to have their conversation, the right to judge right from wrong belonged to them. My job was done, so it was proper for me to step back. As I came outside to return home, a familiar face was waiting anxiously, tapping their foot. Is it over? Come to think of it, I have been a bit neglectful lately. We used to be together every day, but for a while I've been preoccupied with largissimo channel content and Mr. Yoon Guancheol's family matters. Things that had nothing to do with Siwoo. Yeah, it's all done, so there's nothing more to worry about. I guess not. I came because I was worried when I saw Yoon Ji-cheng rushing off with a serious expression. I'm glad everything worked out well. I nodded quietly as I listened to Siwoo, then suddenly stopped. Serious expression? He seemed to think you were up to something. Said he needed to hurry over. Did Yoon Ji-cheng notice my intentions from the beginning? That shouldn't be possible. Could he have lied because he was being considerate of Siwoo? I called him for a lesson. Did he lie to be considerate of you? He showed me your exact message. Why would he lie? Really? I tilted my head, unable to imagine the scenario, when Siwoo grabbed my wrist and began talking. Let's talk while we walk. Since I hadn't properly spent time with him for a while, I matched my pace with Siwoo, thinking we should have a long date. Siwoo walked with confident strides. Though his legs were short, they were toned from walking ruka, so keeping up wasn't difficult. But it was already early August. Even a brief walk under the scorching sun inevitably led to sweat. Walking on the heated pavement, even my slightly elevated sandals quickly became hot. Should we go to a nearby cafe? It's so hot. I already found one, anticipating that. Really? Is there such a place around here? Just a neighborhood cafe? There's somewhere I want to go with you. On this already hot day, Siwoo's hand in mine felt like a midsummer hand warmer. But our hands, those of born musicians, only became slightly moist without excessive sweating. Whether summer or winter, we had ideal physical conditions for dating. That Yoon Ji-chang. He's quite perceptive. Of course, he initially shouted wow when he saw your message. But he calmed down right after. He wasn't that kind of person before. Strange. He thought it was strange too. Chaewon wants to play piano together. Really? Ji-chang, who had become suspiciously paranoid, eventually convinced himself that I had been coerced into sending the message. Naturally, the suspected coercer was Mr. Yoon Gwanjol, and when he arrived, he found Mr. Yoon and me sitting face to face, so he was somewhat correct. Because of that story, now Siwoo also knew about that guy's family situation. So that's what happened. Well, he's always had good intuition, right? Unlike me, who's insensitive, he rushed over like a meerkat. And you followed him? Why bother? Ji-chang told me exactly where he was going, so there was no rush. I leisurely prepared to come meet you. I laughed and nudged Siwoo's side with my elbow. You're playing the boyfriend role well, aren't you? I'm doing my best. Thank you. It's because you're a good girlfriend. I can't help but be a good boyfriend. What are you saying? It's not like I've done much. There you go again, saying you haven't done anything. Heh heh. Chatting animatedly, we soon reached our destination. Under the clear sky without a single cloud, we walked in the pouring summer sunlight. Strangely, though I was sweating, it didn't feel too hot. Is this the power of love? I had this childish thought. Then I saw Siwoo's face and hastily erased it from my mind out of embarrassment. Remember this place? After vigorously erasing that thought, I looked up following Siwoo's gaze and saw a familiar wooden sign. This was the place where our connection, dormant like a seed buried in winter soil for 14 years, began to sprout again. Ah, you remember. Of course I remember. This is here. Chaewon had been playing a piano solo version of Beethoven's Symphony No. 9, Choral. If it hadn't been for your performance of the choral, I probably wouldn't have recognized you. Right. If not for that, I wouldn't have turned my head when reminiscing. The scene naturally comes to mind. We opened the door together and entered the cafe. Jingle, jingle. As the small bell rang, the employee checking their phone at the counter turned to look at us. It was the same employee who had greeted Siwoo when he accidentally entered the cafe half a year ago. Unlike then, the middle-aged woman, similar in age to my mother, recognized me first and clapped her hands. Oh my! You're the student who played the piano half a year ago, right? Yes, that's me. Thank you for that time. It was such a treat for my ears. It was nothing. Thank you for letting me use your precious piano. Precious? It's my husband's, but it was just sitting there, only being tuned with no one to play it. Hearing this, my gaze naturally turned to a framed photo facing the customers. It showed the woman who greeted us at the counter and a man of similar age, photographed together on a beach at sunset. It was a beautiful, breathtaking scene. But unlike the happy expressions in the photo, the woman's face as she looked at the frame was not the same. Wistfulness, longing. I could naturally sense what had happened to him in the photo. May I come by occasionally to play? Of course. I'd be grateful if you did. Yes, I will. The woman pointed to the menu with a bright smile. As a token of gratitude, I'll give you a free drink today. And this student your boyfriend? Ah, yes. My, what a handsome couple. Go ahead and choose one too. No, it's okay. I'll pay. I should be the one saying it's okay, Tilda. Last time when I offered you a drink for your wonderful performance, you just rushed off. Thinking back, that does seem right. Having lived comfortably, Min Ki-won tried to avoid receiving financial support from others. Even if it was a gesture of goodwill, it was something Ki-won was wary of. That's how few people Ki-won trusted unconditionally. But now I have Siwoo's influence, and Siwoo can't refuse genuine kindness from people. Is there any reason to refuse a reward for a beautiful performance? The woman before me is no different from a subscriber to channel alert. She listened to Min Ki-won's arrangement and is simply offering coffee as appreciation for the performance. Then I'll accept with gratitude. Just because you accepted this doesn't mean you have to come play again, okay? Only come when you want to. I don't want to pressure you, Tilda. I'll drop by occasionally. It's close to home, so I can come when walking my dog. Oh my, you have a dog. Well, it's a bit big to call it a dog. Do you have a picture? My dog is huge too, Tilda. It's a Malamute. Oh my. Must be tough in summer. That's why it's sleeping at home with the air conditioning on full blast. It suffers too much if I bring it out. Ahaha. Siwoo didn't interrupt my conversation with the woman and quietly sat at the piano. I watched silently to see what he was going to do, and soon piano music began to fill the cafe. Chopin's Nocturne Op. 9 No. 2. The most well-known nocturne to the general public. Oh my, that's one of my favorites. Though it was still midday, darkness began to spread from the performer. Darkness, but with a gentleness that wasn't gloomy. Is this how it feels to sit on a seawall on a warm summer evening, watching waves quietly embrace the tetrapods? That student plays so well to such a warm feeling. I asked the woman as she moved to prepare our drinks. Was your husband a pianist by any chance? Yes. He wasn't famous, but he was a pianist who perfectly captivated one audience member. And that one audience member was I. Looked at her with a knowing gaze, and she soon replied. It was me. Whether the audience was 100 or 500 people, he loved playing for me the most. He was so visibly happy that I couldn't even scold him to dream bigger. Looking at the woman smiling warmly, a thought suddenly occurred to me. Siwoo before his death also wanted just one audience member. Min Ki-won, perhaps her husband who passed away first, was happier than any pianist because he had her. What about Siwoo now? Is he happy with me by his side? Even if many people cheer for his performances and he becomes a pianist who greets audiences under dazzling spotlights, will he still be my personal pianist for about half the year? She said it was warm. Siwoo is quickly finding his own color. What he truly needed was Min Ki-won, peace of mind and love. In the drama competition this fall, and even in the Chopin competition 2 years later, I am certain that Siwoo will demonstrate his true value. Chapter 134. Please thank you, Ki-won. No need to thank me. After releasing his pent-up emotions, Yoon Ji-yu came straight to find me. Late at night, small insects frantically flew around the streetlights illuminating the dark city. Honestly, I don't know what to thank you for. I don't even know how you got involved in all this. Just a coincidence. For a coincidence, you helped too earnestly. I know everything. Since they had a long family conversation, she probably heard about what happened with Sidon. But our connection began with Sidon. Because she helped me in the past when I needed assistance, I ended up helping her in return, which led me here. Yoon Ji-yu and Yoon Ji-chang each played their roles. For the largissimo hidden camera, I received help from Senior Professor Baek Ju-myeon and Senior Jo Jin-yeol. I merely took the lead and raised the flag, and people volunteered to join. Everything fell into place as if everyone had wanted this situation. No, I didn't intend to get this deeply involved. I was just acting selfishly for my own sake. Whatever you might imagine, there's no room for debate on that point. You haven't forgotten, have you? I've been deceiving your sister for quite a while. It was a build-up that took place over several months. In fact, the blade was originally meant to point at Yoon Ji-yu. Unable to say that, I could only explain that I never approached with good intentions. Actually, I'm not like Sidon at all. I lied to get your sister's attention. I shrugged and turned away. She has no reason to like me. No reason to keep communicating with me. I've made my point with those few words, so she probably won't bother me anymore. Have a good night. We probably won't see each other again. I was just about to approach and pet Roka, who was wagging her tail outside the house. A hug descended from above. The heavy weight pressing against my back made its identity easily recognizable. Really, this is how it ends? Yes. It's over. Liar. Why? I'm telling you, I just used your sister. Since I forcibly created a connection that doesn't even exist in the parallel world, this relationship will only cause problems the deeper it gets. We should go our separate ways rather than getting entangled further. Once I start studying under Professor Baek Jumian, I won't have much time to socialize with anyone other than Siwoo. Why would I need to split that time to meet with Yoon Ji-yu? After all, I only used her for Siwoo's sake. You approached me with the intention of using me. It doesn't matter if you didn't expect things to turn out this way. Can't we just continue as acquainted sisters? I genuinely like you as a person. Feeling her warmth through my back and nape, I closed my eyes. Even if I approached you with thoughts of revenge, a sinner who doesn't know their sin is not human but a monster wearing a human disguise. Humans either try to hide their sins, or face their sins and seek atonement. Take your revenge. I'll gladly accept it. If it's revenge from the person who brought our family back together, I welcome it. You might not be able to participate in the competition you're preparing for. It doesn't matter. Hot tears flowed down my cheeks. It doesn't matter, competitions aren't that important for me, who knew Yoon Ji-yu from the parallel world. These words were utterly shocking. Saying competitions aren't important? When she valued them above any other life goal. Ah, was that also because of her father? I know why you want revenge. Surely among the friends I used and discarded, there was someone you knew. It was because of the competitions. Everyone I hurt was sacrificed for my competitions. I know that. But the competitions, I was doing them all because of my father. I hated how he controlled my life at will. So I planned to become someone greater than him and cut ties with him. Hearing Yoon Ji-yu's true feelings for the first time. She wasn't a villainess who mechanically drained people like mosquitoes and discarded them when they were no longer useful. Do you remember? But if she acknowledges her mistakes and wants to stay by my side, she shouldn't have hurt others while claiming she wanted to escape from her father. How many people you've hurt? Perpetrators don't consider the victims' perspectives. Naturally, they have no idea how many bad memories they've given to others. The same must be true for Yoon Ji-yu. Even if she's not a mechanical villainess, a villainess is still a villainess. Even if there's a backstory, it doesn't erase the bad things she's done. 33 people. I remember all their names. You remember? Yes. Yoon Ji-yu was human. Moreover, she was a human who could face her sins and knew how to atone. I've recorded them all. I plan to find them and apologize in person later. Yoon Ji pulled out a notebook from her small handbag. It was filled with the names and contact information of people she had used. She must check the contact information periodically, as there were new contacts written below crossed-out lines. Don't lie. It's true. I can swear on my violin career. Were you planning to contact them after placing in the competition? Yes. Even though you'll be busy with the winner's concert afterward. I can do it. How could I not make one call because I'm busy? I recalled the 3 calls from overseas in my hazy memory. That must have been Yoon Ji-yu. I didn't even answer because I thought it was overseas fishing. She has a point. It seems Yoon Ji-yu had contacted everyone she had connections with, big or small, to acknowledge her wrongdoings. Without my knowledge, there had been some form of agreement with the victims, even if not completely amicable. If she hadn't made even those small apologies, no matter how much Mr. Yoon Guanchiel mobilized the media, they couldn't have completely blocked all the negative comments about her. She would have been embroiled in a bigger past controversy than I remember. The victims might have united to expose the past of Yoon Ji-yu, the worst violinist, and continued to tear her down until she hit rock bottom. Then start from now. If competitions aren't important, there's no need to postpone the apologies until then. I don't particularly want to remain friends with Yoon Ji-yu, but I'm not good at refusing people who desperately ask. As she once berated me to my face, I can't help being a pushover. I will. When you're done apologizing, come find me then. Okay. I didn't say I would become her friend again. The time for judgment will come after Yoon Ji fulfills her duty. I'll be waiting. But I did say I would wait until she completes her mission. This was a privilege granted to me for stopping Yoon Ji before she completely fell into depravity. That night, I was underwater. I was used to it now and didn't flail around in panic. I waited calmly and my body floated up. My dark vision gradually brightened, becoming a clear spring sky. Using fluffy cumulus clouds as cushions, I moved around and the owner of this place soon appeared. It's been a while, number 26. It was the lady who was playing by slicing clouds with her sword. It has been a while. Have you given up on romance? Given up? I had dinner with Siwoo today too. So what if you ate together? That's all there is to it. The lady clicked her tongue, expressing dissatisfaction with the pace of my romance. I smiled and tried to appease her. It's August. Just wait 4 months. If I wait 4 months, are you saying there will be good news? There will be. There will definitely be. How confident you are. Love doesn't suddenly progress like that. You need to do well regularly. Love doesn't happen just because you plan it. She's being too picky, considering I didn't neglect Siwoo while resolving the issues with Yoon Ji. I swam through the air with my arms and legs and stopped beside her as she swung her sword. Siwoo is holding back because of that. You'll see if you wait. Holding back. Yes. I'm still young, you know. Eclert sighed deeply. Yeah. Do you know how many years we've lived combined? How many years have we lived? You've lived for an incalculable amount of time. To Min Kiwon, Jeong Siwoo is like a newborn baby. Is it that much? That might not be wrong. If I've lived 30 years 25 times, that's 750 years, so Siwoo, who's only lived 23 years, might seem like a newborn. While different eras have different standards, will the age of adulthood be lowered in 10 years? Later on, the concept of adulthood becomes ambiguous. You've lived longer than I thought. I suppose so. After exchanging trivial conversation, I shared our future plans, feeling like I was seeking permission from Chaewon's parents. Until October, I'll support Siwoo's domestic competition. When the new year comes, we'll make a lifelong commitment. Our future holds nothing but happiness. Listening to this, Eclert wore a subtle smile. Yes. May you be happy. Chapter 135. Cute. I'll support Siwoo's domestic competitions until October. And when the new year comes, we'll make a lifelong commitment. Our future holds nothing but happiness. Eclert, who had been listening, wore a subtle smile. Yes. May you be happy. Just as I was about to ask what that ambiguous smile meant, my body, which had been floating through the sky with the clouds, suddenly dropped with a thud. I fell in an instant. Startled, I jumped up and checked my hands first, worried I might be injured from what felt like falling onto bare ground. But I was greeted by the soft mattress and blankets of my bed. Why do I feel like I was kicked out? You're hiding something, Eclert. Is it something I don't need to know? At first I didn't think much of it, but the more I reflect, the stranger it seems. While numbers 1 through 25, including Eclert, were all subsumed into Echlert's personality, only I, who came from young Siwoo, was able to become one with number 0. Initially, Chaewon and I had switched bodies. That was brushed off as the reason we could become one, but why was I absorbed by number 0 Chaewon rather than by Eclert? Even if I asked number 0, it would be difficult to get the right answer. Since we've become one body, what I don't know, she doesn't know either. I'm already busy helping Siwoo plan his future, so I don't particularly want to think about these things anyway. Are you awake? Ah, yes. Were you already here? You were sleeping later than usual. Ah, So I was. The hour and minute hands on the bedside clock overlapped, and the sun was already high in the sky. It seemed I had woken up late after meeting Echlert. Kanghui, you remember all of numbers 1 through 25, right? Yes. Of course I do. What were they like? Were they really all completely different from me? Well, like a storyteller preparing an extensive tale, Kanghui settled on the edge of the bed. Strictly speaking, except for Miss Number 25 and Miss Number 26, they were all similar. Similar? Yes. Well, but that was only because they were surprised after first settling into that body. Afterward, they all became similar. With a long sigh, Kanghui stared intently at my face. No matter how pretty I am, it's uncomfortable to be stared at like that. This face belongs to Siwoo, after all. According to my intuition from observing you for a long time, the current number 26 Miss has become very similar to number 0 Miss. In other words, number 26 Miss was ultimately you all along. Kanghui revealed his aesthetic sensibility, saying that I had merged with Chaewon. Since I'm already essentially the same as Chaewon, I can't say he's wrong. So you're saying number 25 was ultimately Chaewon too? That's right. She definitely showed a color in her performance that only you could display. Though her preferences were a bit different, it was refreshing to see that Kanghui wasn't simply distinguishing Chaewon's identity by her behavior patterns. Come to think of it, Chaewon's performances were always like that. Whenever and wherever you heard them, they were hopeful and heartwarming. I still can't forget her performance that comforted me at the beginning of the semester when I was shocked after meeting classmates as impressive as myself. Although Chaewon was performing alone in the cafe that day, it felt like a small orchestra had been invited to give a concert. I think I'll never forget that chorus until I die. Whether number 0, number 1, number 25, or me. In the end, we're all just Min Chaewon now. There's no need to waste time on unnecessary thoughts. Aren't I busy enough spending time with Siwoo, going out and having fun? Even though number 25 gives off suspicious vibes, it's probably just simple mischief. She was always a prankster devil-like personality who teased me whenever we met. She's probably just grumbling out of jealousy because Siwoo and I are doing well. Preparing for Siwoo's competition comes 1st October is only 2 months away now. And the first preliminary round is only a month and 2 weeks away. I should go see Siwoo. I'll make you look pretty, tilde yes. It's funny when I think about it. Others need to practice to prepare for competitions, but here I am thinking about taking Siwoo out to play. But this also means that I have faith in Siwoo's performance skills. CPU manufacturers sometimes sell 4-core CPUs as 3-core products. When one core block is problematic or below quality standards, rather than paying additional costs to discard or dismantle it, it's more profitable to deactivate the entire defective section and sell it as a 3-core product. Siwoo was like a 3-core product. He could have been used as a normal product if fixed, but because the cost of fixing was considerable, or perhaps impossible, he had lived as a 3-core all along. But now it's different. The completed Siwoo can show his full potential to any opponent. There's no way he would be distracted by dating me and neglect his competition preparation. I know young Siwoo. Before our date time, he'll secure practice time by finding a practice room or going to school. He's amazing. In the not-so-long 24 hours of a day, he accomplishes everything he sets out to do. Before I appeared, wasn't he endlessly repeating his practice routine without any mood-boosting activities like dates or walks? He's a real Superman. We should be happy. I'll achieve the love I couldn't before and be happy. The pianist who achieved his dream will be happy to meet the precious audience he had been searching for. A perfect world will be completed where no one is unhappy. What? You came early? The weather that had been hot all along was a bit cooler today. Looking at the somewhat gloomy sky, it seems like it might rain a little today. I hope it rains soon, or our Siwoo might get steamed to death. When is autumn coming anyway? No, I just arrived. You're drenched in sweat. Drenched? It's just a little. So, where do you want to go today? Siwoo held out his palm, and I reflexively placed my hand on it. With a bright smile, he said, "You'll see when we get there." I knew the summer weather was unpredictable, but who would have thought it would rain as soon as we arrived at our destination? I had been thinking it was so hot that it should rain, and it actually did. Well, Kang, we knew. As expected of the best maid. I shook my folding umbrella and said to Siwoo, "Go up first." We should go up together. You're emphasizing together a lot today. At those words, Siwoo gave me a somewhat disappointed look. I felt guilty for no reason and snapped back, "What? Why are you looking at me like that?" "You'll see when we go up." I glanced at the sign hanging on the half landing of the stairs. Despite Siwoo's deliberate attempts to block my view, I soon realized which store we had come to. The store name was Yunhyang Workshop. Below it was a crude inscription that read "Ringmaking Experience Available." It was a couple ringmaking experience cafe, something that might as well be a relic from a few years ago, possibly no longer existing due to the COVID aftermath. I quickly calculated the days from when we agreed to date until today. 3 months and 8 days. And 2 31-day months in between. It's our 100th day? Looks like you finally figured it out. My emotions must have been evident on my face as Siwoo climbed the stairs with a smug expression. I hurriedly organized my umbrella and followed behind him. Hey, you could have told me in advance. I thought a good girlfriend would naturally know. If I may make an excuse, that's not really an excuse. I've been so busy helping you prepare for your competition, really. Not busy resolving Yoonji's issues? No, I wasn't. For every 2 steps I climbed, Siwoo climbed 3. The innate difference in our leg lengths made it difficult for me to easily follow him, whether on flat ground or stairs. Don't waste your energy. This is going to be harder work than you think. What good girlfriend? I was too busy thinking about Siwoo's career to pay any attention to anniversaries. If I had known this would happen, I shouldn't have left it to Siwoo to handle on his own. Should I have been involved in the decision-making, even a little? As I turned the corner at the 2.5 floor landing, Siwoo, who had already reached the 3rd floor, was holding the cafe door open, waiting for me. Arriving with a huff, I punched his chest and said, "You tell me about these things in advance from now on. I wanted to surprise you, that's why I didn't say anything." "What? Didn't you like it? Should I not surprise you next time?" I was only disappointed in myself for being an oblivious girlfriend. Why would I dislike Siwoo preparing a surprise event for me? I lowered my head to hide my reddening face, but it was a meaningless gesture. No. Siwoo's hand gently lifted my cheek, as if carefully picking up a soft steamed bun. Then, as he entered the store first, he casually dropped a comment, "Have you given up on calling me Appa?" "Ah, you've been naturally saying hey since I picked you up in front of Yoon Ji-chang's house." "Ah, no, that was because I was flustered." The look in Siwoo's eyes was unsettling. It was like the gaze of a beast eyeing delicious prey. "You're consistently cute, though." Chapter 136, Omega. Did you give up on calling me Appa? "Ah, since picking you up at Yoon Ji-chang's place, you've been casually calling me hey." "Ah, no, that was because I was flustered." Siwoo's eyes as he looked at me were unsettling. "Like a beast eyeing delicious prey. You're consistently cute, aren't you?" Sensing danger, I immediately shouted, "Appa." Could there be a more desperate Appa call in the world? "Be careful, Min Ki-won. Keep this up and you'll really get eaten. Don't forget you still have plenty of time until the deadline you set in your heart." Cute when flustered? I suppose I am cute. Because I'm Min Ki-won. Huh. Before, I was envious that only Siwoo could see these precious moments. But now, not so much. Rather, I felt happy seeing Siwoo's smile. Like I was completely in love-struck girl mode. Perhaps the tiny bit of Min Ki-won inside Siwoo had removed even the last trace of burden I felt. At first, I approached him comfortably because he was myself. But I didn't want the pressure that came with him being myself. Now it was okay. I guess having two of us makes the difference. Things I had been putting off, thinking time would solve them, were actually being resolved as time passed. Siwoo helped by trying not to burden me, and I made efforts to become one with Chaewon. What you can't do alone, you can do together. We're strong because we're two. Because we're two, we can do anything. How is it? It's really well polished. It'll shine even more after buffing. The ring we left with the workshop owner now revealed a smooth surface like silver rings sold in stores. It was polished enough to use as a mirror. Do mine too. You should do that yourself. My fingers hurt as I wiggled my reddened fingers from polishing. Siwoo laughed and took the ring I had been working on. Maybe I should have done it from the start. No, that wouldn't be as rewarding. Right? Of course. Perhaps because he had already finished one, he skillfully polished my ring clean with deft movements. With the employee's help completing the buffing, my ring also revealed its beautiful form. Would you like to engrave initials? Yes. Just let me know what initials you want and choose a font. Sure. A small piece of paper was placed before us. There were many phrases we could write. The most conventional option would be to engrave our initials. Add a heart between them and it would be the perfect couple item. But knowing Siwoo, he'd probably have a more unique idea. He'd say engraving initials like everyone else is boring. I have something I want to engrave. So this time, the girlfriend who didn't even know it was their 100-day anniversary wants to suggest an idea. Siwoo would probably like it if we were thinking the same thing. I took the pen from Siwoo and wrote one phrase on the paper. Love yourself. Siwoo burst into laughter when he saw it. I get the feeling. Right? Jesus said it. And BTS said it too, a legendary quote. It's also perfect for our situation. Without needing detailed explanation, we formed a mutual understanding about this theme. Love yourself. Whatever form that takes. So we will love each other. And love ourselves. Let's go with this. Yay tilde. After telling the workshop owner our chosen phrase and font, we both looked out the window as if we'd planned it. The rain was coming down in thick streams. It was heavy enough that staying inside the workshop with drinks seemed better than venturing out. Looking out the window, we turned to face each other simultaneously. About to say something, we noticed each other's thoughts and silently turned back to the window. Are you cold? The AC? Yeah. I dressed a bit lightly today. I'm fine. I'll tell you if I get cold. Or, come closer. Siwoo pulled my chair sharply. Despite my weight on the wooden chair, it moved suddenly as if on wheels. You're strong. I'm a man. Well, that strength is how he threw Beek Chunga onto the bed. With Siwoo's current strength, he could probably easily throw a 20 kg rice bag. When that day comes, will he throw me onto the bed too? It's passionate, but might be a little scary. For a moment, a strange scene reflected in the glass. It was probably an illusion only I saw. In the illusion, I was lying on a bed. And above me was what's wrong? Eek! I clutched my startled heart. And nothing. It's nothing. Shall I guess what you were thinking? No, there's no need to guess this kind of thought. I pressed my palm against Siwoo's face and declared, I'll kill you if you guess right. What were you thinking that made you react like that? It's nothing, okay? I had imagined the future between Siwoo and me, things children shouldn't see many times before. And each time, I was in the observer position. But today's imagination was completely different. It was entirely from Min Ki-won's perspective. Perhaps I've completely become Min Ki-won now. Kang Hwi said so too. The memories that came from the past have become precious nourishment for Min Ki-won. That existence hasn't completely disappeared. Have I become a completely different person? Not exactly. I am now both Min Ki-won and young Siwoo. It sounds absurd, but my piano performance proves it. A mixture of black and pink. A beautiful blend of bright pink and complete darkness coexisting, reminiscent of Van Gogh's style. That performance was my proof. Come to think of it, Klert claimed to have absorbed all other Chaewons, but was that really true? All 25 min Chaewons with experience playing different instruments are now inside me. During the Largissimo content, when I changed the order of playing the 3 Archangels BGM, all the judges except Professor B. Kyumyeon, who noticed it was me, chose my performance over the original. That means they felt richer colors in my performance than in Cho Jin-yeol's. Even I, who doesn't particularly like self-praise, can't ignore this result. Including the general public's evaluations, I achieved a 3:1 score. Could this really be just a collaboration between me and Chaewon-0? No way. It feels more like all Chaewons are in me and only a Klert is separate. Why does a Klert float around independently instead of being absorbed into Chaewon like the other personalities? Is it his Chunabu concept, wanting to walk a different path from others? That might make sense in its own way. He just appears in my dreams, making me feel uneasy. Next time I meet him, I'll give him a good knock on the head. If only I could take that sword away from him somehow. Anyway, now that I'm Min Chaewon in both body and mind, shouldn't I have control over the dream world too? Being at the mercy of a Klert because of one sword doesn't sit well with me. Chaewon. I must have been lost in thought for quite some time. Yes, the rings are done. Let's go check them. Oh, okay. The engraving and finishing work that was supposed to take 30 minutes was already complete. The workshop owner must be quite skilled. I followed Siwoo, who had already stood up. Along the way, boxes of materials and items for ringmaking were stacked. Except for the workshop owner's workspace, the lighting was soft, creating a scene like something from a documentary about watchmakers or precious metal craftsmen. Since they mainly operate as an online store, there was only one table, the window seat where we had been sitting. How are they? Do you like them? If there are any areas that need more polishing, please let me know. It's a man. Small build, high voice. With the mask and hood, I thought it was a woman. Looking closely, it was a man. His voice wasn't so much feminine as that of a boy whose voice hadn't fully changed. Young people often have complaints but don't speak up. That's why I like to double-check. Please feel free to say anything. I could have let it go, but his words confirmed my suspicion. This person is older than us. Perhaps sensing my scrutinizing gaze, the workshop owner smiled and said, "Ah, look at me." In front of customers, when he removed his hood, a disheveled bob haircut typical of a reclusive artist came into view. "I'm sorry. I was staring too much." "It's fine. Young folks must find it strange." "How old do I look?" 13, 14. That's about right." Neotenic complex syndrome? The condition where growth stops in childhood, leaving one with a childlike appearance until death. Everyone who comes in asks, so I'm used to it. The problem is that doctors don't know the exact diagnosis either. A similar disease has been trending recently. It has the side effect of changing gender, but like neotenic complex syndrome, it makes the body suddenly younger. Could it be TSVID? Or the workshop owner laughed candidly as if it were no big deal. "My goodness, how did you know?" "Tests showed I have that virus." "It must be a variant. My gender didn't change, just my body got younger." Chapter 137, Not a Chance. The workshop owner smiled broadly and said, "Oh my, how did you know?" "The test results showed that virus was present. It's a variant that doesn't change gender, just makes the body younger like this. There's still no official name for the condition, and it's not like anything hurts. I guess I'll just have to live like this for the rest of my life." When I looked at him with a sympathetic expression, the workshop owner waved his hands dismissively. "Isn't it better this way?" I was creaking and groaning at 60, so this worked out well. Haha. If you're happy with it, that's good, but the doctor said I could live about 80 more years. At first, I wondered what was the point of living that much longer, but these days, I've just accepted it. How long have you been running this workshop? Looking around, it seems like quite a while, long enough to get tired of it. The workshop owner fiddled with his shoulder-length hair and pointed to an old calendar hanging in the corner. It was a 1980 calendar. 40 years ago. So he was a master craftsman who had been doing this since he was 20. No wonder the picky Siwoo came all the way out here. I can make these with my eyes closed now. After 40 years, I can imagine, but now I don't need to close my eyes anymore. My eyesight has gotten too good. Heh heh. It was the kind of joke only an old man could make, so we just laughed politely. If I said how fortunate for you here, it might strangely come across as mockery. They say it's not contagious. But some people are terrified of catching it, so I usually tell people up front. Ah, I see. Still, thankfully no one has cursed me out yet. Tusk tusk. Since TS Vid had only been released into the world a few years ago, there were many inadequacies in systems and patient management at the national level. Even the reported infection rates were all over the place. Some said 1 in a million, others 1 in 10,000. There wasn't a single reliable source. Anyway, nothing else needs adjusting? No. This is perfect. I'm glad you like it. It's because your craftsmanship is so excellent. Heh heh. I appreciate the kind words. A person who had been doing this work for 40 years had gained a young body while keeping all his expertise. Though his body was young now, once he fully matured, both his strength and eyesight would return to their youthful state. It was truly like entering the second prime of life. While the workshop owner was finishing up, we stood quietly watching him work. There were no flaws in the work done by his small body. Every movement was skilled and precise, without a single wasted motion, exuding professionalism. We didn't have to wait long before the finishing touches were complete. The workshop owner wiped away his sweat and presented us with a small plate holding 2 rings. Here, try them on. If they don't fit, I'll adjust the size right away. Thank you. I was about to put on the ring from the pretty plate, but Siwoo quickly stopped me. Hey, what are you doing? That's not romantic. A tiny Chaewon inside Siwoo just popped out. Right. Even Lady wouldn't tolerate this situation. What a mistake to make in my eagerness. Give me your finger. Okay. The gleaming silver ring slid perfectly onto my ring finger. To think the day would come when Siwoo would put a ring on Chaewon's finger. The complex feelings I'm having watching this life is truly unpredictable. Which direction it will flow, what unexpected things will happen. Only the gods of heaven and earth would know. Or perhaps even they don't know? It fits perfectly. Do you like it? Of course I like it. These were rings we had made for each other. They were more valuable than gold rings or diamond rings, many times more expensive. I slipped the matching ring onto Siwoo's ring finger, which he was happily extending. Yours fits perfectly too. It does. I was too busy grinning, finding it difficult to express this happy feeling, when, you two look good together, tilde. I belatedly realized the workshop owner was watching us. We jumped in surprise and turned toward him. Ah, to be young again. Ahaha, we're sorry. What are you sorry for? It's nice to see. The workshop owner busily moved about, handing us a ring box, certificate, and a cute shopping bag containing silver cleaning solution. If you have any problems, come back anytime. Thank you. Have a beautiful love. With his kind smile behind us, we left the workshop. Unlike the cool interior of the workshop, outside was still rather muggy. It's still raining like this. Yeah. What should we do? Want to go to a nearby cafe? Yes. Let's do that. Looking at our couple rings faintly gleaming in the headlights of passing cars, I could hardly suppress the tingling feeling in my heart. This surprise event made Min Chaewon want to dance. Tonight can I stay over? Siwoo, who had been busy thinking about crossing the narrow two-lane road, turned to me a beat late. What did you just say? I want to sleep over at your place. This must have been outside his calculations. But on a day like this, it feels wrong to just go home. I think it wouldn't be bad just to spend the night cozily in the same space. But for Siwoo, is it too much pressure? Well, should we watch something while having late-night snacks? Sounds good. Is there a series you want to watch? I'm sure we can find something. Fortunately, Siwoo seemed to have found his own solution. It was the best choice to spend time with me while not rushing things. There was value in leaving our relationship progress entirely to him for a while. Even when faced with a crisis situation, he quickly found a way out. Me too. Today honestly, I don't want to just end it here. Right? Right? Well, it's raining. Want to go get some Pajon? Even though I don't drink much, I can't resist having some macchiato with Pajon and potato pancakes on a rainy day. Why do I have to be a minor? No, wait. Should we order delivery? Huh? They deliver that. After COVID, what restaurant doesn't deliver? That's true. But won't it taste bad if we get it delivered? I have an air fryer at home. If we crisp it up a bit in there, it'll be crunchy again. That's a method. And you see, Wu tapped my nose as he spoke. You're craving alcohol. Thug. Always so cheeky for someone so young. Hey, I was originally the same age as you, you know. There you go with you again. Pick one. Either call me Appa or stick with you. Oh, Appa and I just want to have a drink together. Siwoo burst out laughing at my awkward tone. You really don't need to force yourself. I'll handle it well. Just call me ya or you like usual. I prefer that. I do like it, but Appa feels a bit distant. We're only a year apart anyway. Just forget about the age gap. At Hanai University, even among first-year students, there were people of various ages. Because of this, the distinctions between older and younger weren't always clear. Some would speak casually to juniors 2 years younger, while others would use formal speech with seniors just a year older. With frequent cases of upperclassmen being younger than their juniors, everyone got used to just distinguishing between senior and junior students and addressing each other in friendly terms. So our 1-year age difference was practically non-existent. Okay. Since Siwoo had been patient all this time, he'd probably handle this well too. Sleeping under the same roof. Even drinking alcohol. But still, it should be fine, right? I will. That's more comfortable for me too. You've been speaking casually all along anyway, just adding Appa. But it was nice, wasn't it? I know you so well. That's true, but only for so long. As we bickered, I deliberately bumped my body against Siwoo to check his reaction. I wanted to see if I could safely spend the night. Fortunately, Siwoo didn't react to the physical contact like he did when we first started dating. If anything, I seemed to be the one with a problem. Calm down, surely we'll sleep separately, with different blankets on the floor, or one on the bed and one on the floor. I'll be able to sleep properly, right? I won't accidentally roll over to Siwoo's side while sleeping, will I? If I disturb Siwoo's sleep and wake him up, something dangerous might happen. That would mean I'd be breaking Siwoo's limit of patience. That absolutely cannot happen. Let's buy energy drinks on the way. Planning not to sleep? Summer break is ending soon. We should have as much fun as possible before then. That's true. Siwoo smiled at me with his arms crossed. Shall we pull an all-nighter? Yes, rather than sleeping, let's watch movies or dramas all night. Then there's no chance I'll make a mistake after drinking and falling asleep. Yes. 7 hours later. Are you okay? Our bodies pressed close together as always when we embraced. Our heartbeats resonated from chest to chest. How we ended up like this, I still can't quite figure out. But anyway, it was a crisis situation. A major crisis where I might not be able to preserve my chastity. Chapter 138, Emergency 2 hours ago. Is this really okay? You're me. So it doesn't matter. That's true. It's not like the police are going to come to our house and check ID. I stared at the delivered Pajon and the Macchiali that Siwoo had just bought from the convenience store, lost in thought. It should be fine. Right. Before I died, I was 23. I'll be an adult in 4 months anyway, right? It's not like I'm going to die from having one drink of Macchiali. Okay. Just for today. Since it's our 100-day anniversary but only 1 cup. Why? You might be fine with it, but I'm a bit uncomfortable watching. TCH. Siwoo said as he placed a soup bowl on the table. Anyway, just 1 cup. Promise. I answered while filling the empty soup bowl halfway with Macchiali. Fine. Just 1 cup. And then I filled my bowl to the brim, creating perfect surface tension. Hey. 1 cup what? This is still 1 cup, isn't it? Before Siwoo could stop me, I quickly brought it to my lips. Gulp. The fizzy carbonation and sour fermented drink slid down my throat. So refreshing, this taste. Bitter. Why is it so bitter? Was alcohol always this bitter? I knew it. Ugh, that's why I said just 1 cup. You've never had alcohol before. Well, it's the first time in this body. Different body means different senses. Are you stupid? That's true, but... Damn. I poured so much, but I can't drink it. To think Macchiali doesn't taste good. With Pajon right in front of me. The golden combination. I figured this would happen, so I bought this. Drink this instead. Siwoo took out an unfamiliar chubby can from the refrigerator. It said Macchiali on the outside, but did such Macchiali exist? It's non-alcoholic Macchiali. There's non-alcoholic Macchiali. According to reviews, it tastes similar to milk soda. Try it. Ugh. That's milk soda, not Macchiali. Says the baby who can't even drink real Macchiali but talks big. Baby, I guess I have no choice. I took the chubby can Siwoo poured for me and took a sip. It tasted somewhat different from the Macchiali I remembered. It really felt like a kid's drink. But it was strangely sweet with no bitterness at all, so it suited my taste. It's good. Curious, I poured it into a mug and saw how pale it was. Is this rice wine or just a soft drink? As I said, you have a child's palate. No, I don't. Yes, you do have a child's palate. Then you have a child's palate too. I have an adult's palate. What are you talking about? Even as we bickered, Siwoo slowly pulled my nearly overflowing soup bowl toward himself. Then he downed the bowl full of Macchiali in one go. We haven't even touched the Pajon yet. Is he planning to get drunk first and then watch the movie? Hey. You'll get drunk if you drink like that. I know from drinking alone a few times that if you drink like that, you'll reach your limit quickly. My capacity is only about 1 bottle of soju at most. We agreed to watch movies all night, but if you pass out first, I swear I'll kill you. How could I fall asleep with Min Ki-won next to me? I wouldn't be a man if I did. What are you talking about? Young Siwoo, you might end up passing out if you try too hard to look manly. We agreed to watch movies all night, and if you collapse, isn't that less manly? If you fall asleep, I'm going home. It's dangerous to go out late at night. If you won't play with me, I have to leave. I won't fall asleep. Don't worry. I want to believe you, but your trustworthiness just plummeted because of that Macchiali shot. You know me too well. Siwoo scratched the back of his head and looked at me cautiously. Even if he tried to play it off, I couldn't pretend not to know what I knew. Should I have pretended not to notice? Was I being too tactless? Does this mean I fail as a good girlfriend? I'll just pretend I don't know. Your trustworthiness is rising again. It's too late for that. Anyway, it's up again. Drink more. Siwoo laughed and put a piece of Pianist in the air fryer, then went to the sink and shook an empty bottle. It was a hangover remedy drink. What? When did you drink that? I thought I might drink a bit today, so I had it in advance. So you were planning to get completely wasted. But honestly, I probably didn't need to drink this. Siwoo rolled up his short sleeves to his shoulders and flexed his biceps for no reason. Somehow, his arms were thicker than I remembered. The once slender Siwoo seemed to be turning into a gym rat. I've been walking with Ruka every morning. Thanks to that, my stamina and lung capacity have improved, so I can do other exercises more. I increased my 30-minute workout routine to an hour and this happened. With decent arm strength, I can concentrate and practice longer. It's been beneficial in many ways. The results of reducing his meaningless hours of agony in front of the piano and investing in health and exercise instead were impressive. Of course, becoming too muscular could reduce flexibility, so his current level of muscle was just right. Truly, he was the perfect version of young Siwoo that I had wished for. So my alcohol tolerance has improved lately too. I tried drinking alone when you weren't around, and now I can handle 2.5 bottles of soju easily. I've heard some people exercise to drink more. That wasn't a lie after all. I used to drink alone at least once a week. So Siwoo wouldn't lie about his alcohol tolerance. He must have tested it himself. Since I took the hangover remedy, don't worry about me falling asleep first tonight. I really won't. Okay, I'll look forward to that. Just don't you fall asleep first. If you do, I'll tickle you awake. No, isn't that too harsh for a guest? If we agreed to play, we should play until the end. I guessing, the air fryer stopped. When I pulled the handle, crispy Pianist greeted us. Thanks to the oil paper at the bottom, much of the oil had drained, making it look less greasy. Pick a movie while I set things up. While Siwoo put new oil paper and another Pianist in the air fryer, I browsed Netflix on his Apple Pad connected to the beam projector. There were many movies in the wish list, but the first one I chose was Train to Seoul. It was a well-made zombie apocalypse film credited with opening the era of Korean zombie movies. Everyone around me said it was so good that I wanted to go see it in theaters, but I couldn't because I was busy preparing for a youth concurs. Part of it was that I was too scared to watch it alone. But now Siwoo is right beside me, isn't he? So today is the perfect day to watch this movie. Train to Seoul? Yeah. Has it already been 5 years since it was released? Apparently. It was a straightforward choice without any concern for preferences. This kind of selection and focus was possible only because it was us. Whatever we chose would satisfy both of us. Even if it wasn't from the wish list, every pick would be perfect for us both. How convenient is that? I kept saying I should watch it back then but never did. Now I finally get to see it. Siwoo, having finished setting up, sat down next to me as I was fiddling with the Apple Pad. I felt his shoulder touch mine and pressed the play button. But will you be okay? Neither of us handles scary stuff well. It should be fine since we're watching together. How does two cowards watching together change anything that's unknown? Are you never going to watch it? Or are you going to watch it with someone else? Not watching is also an option. If you want to see it, you should watch it. People sometimes forget their fears in the face of curiosity, but... I had underestimated the jump scares in zombie movies. Zombies suddenly appearing with screams after moments of silence. Being so tense, I couldn't help but throw myself into Siwoo's arms each time. Startled, Siwoo embraced me every time I lunged at him. Hey, are you okay? Why, how does a zombie movie have more jump scares than most horror movies? My heart can't take this. Sorry. I was too startled. It's okay, I was scared too. I awkwardly pulled away from Siwoo. Sigh, what kind of zombie movie is this? It's a horror movie, Kaya. Thug. Another jump scare made me flinch so hard that we tumbled to the floor in a tangle. Are you okay? Since we weren't drunk, we were looking at each other with perfectly clear minds. But despite our clear minds, our position was chaotic. Siwoo, who had tried to prevent my head from hitting the floor, was half lying on top of me. His knee was between my legs and our chests were pressed together. Our noses were close enough to touch with the slightest movement. Our bodies, which were always close during hugs, felt hot. On the screen projected on the wall, hordes of zombies were running wildly. But we, tangled together, couldn't say a word as our hearts raced madly. Gradually, the zombie sounds faded away. The screams of people were no longer audible. Had my eardrums blocked out all external sounds? Why could I only hear heartbeats? Siwoo gently applied pressure to the hand supporting the back of my head. Our already close faces moved even closer. Our lips were about to touch. What should I do? What do I do? Should I just stay still? Close my eyes? Keep them open? I'll close them first. What should I do next? Someone please tell me. I really don't know anything. Chapter 139. Emergency alert. Siwoo gently applies pressure to the hand supporting the back of my head. His face, already close, draws even closer. Our lips are about to touch. What should I do? What am I supposed to do? Should I just stay still like this? Close my eyes? Keep them open? I'll close them for now. What comes next? Someone please tell me. I really don't know anything about this saw. Thud. I thought I was moving toward Siwoo, but suddenly the back of my head collided with the floor. Oh, I let out a short cry and clutched my throbbing head. That hurts. You can't just drop me like that. I'm sorry. I got caught up in the moment and almost made a mistake. Siwoo left me lying there and slowly moved away. Only then did I start hearing the surrounding sounds again. The zombie noises and screams from the movie were creating quite a commotion. I immediately used the iPad to pause the film. What are you sorry for? All of a sudden, I almost kissed you without asking. Just now. Right? That's what happened. But it's not like I was refusing. So that's what those romance books meant. In a heated moment, when bodies draw close and a woman silently closes her eyes, that's the okay signal. I was completely ready to accept Siwoo just now. I was mentally prepared for whatever might happen. And yet, Siwoo, this clueless idiot, running away when we were so close. We must have read the same romance books, so why are you running? You must have been surprised. I won't do it again. Despite being the one who gets scolded by a clerk for not knowing much about dating, I knew what I needed to do now. If I let this slide without correcting him, Siwoo will ruin the mood the same way next time a similar situation arises. Then I, or rather the Chaewon inside me, would scream in frustration. What are you doing? She would say. I need to speak up. Even if it's embarrassing, I have to say it. I need to clearly tell him what I want. Siwoo won't understand if I speak indirectly. I know that better than anyone. I meant that you could kiss me, but after saying it, I couldn't bear the embarrassment, so I covered my face with both hands and curled up. I couldn't look Siwoo straight in the eye. What did I just say? Why is this so embarrassing? I should be the confident Minky one, but I can't. Help me. My face is burning. Air raid warning, fire alarm. I'm sorry. I was so clueless. Thud. I heard Siwoo hitting his forehead against the floor. It's too late today, but next time a similar opportunity comes, I'll definitely do it. I'm sorry for being so dense. It's okay if I'm embarrassed, but Siwoo shouldn't hurt himself. I quickly sat up and lifted Siwoo, who was lying flat on the floor. Don't hit your head over something like this. You'll get hurt. But as I was stroking his forehead, our eyes met. My body, which had risen in surprise, naturally curled up again like a pill bug and rolled on the floor. Embarrassed, I mumbled in a voice so small I wasn't sure if it would reach Siwoo. I'm okay with it. Hoping the awkward atmosphere would quickly disappear. I waited and waited some more. Hurry, Siwoo. Say something, anything. I feel like I'm going to suffocate. I'm the one who's not okay. That's a relief. But he's blaming himself. I'm sorry for being such an oblivious boyfriend. You're trying so hard and I was so insensitive. I should comfort him, right? But how should I do it? What would make Siwoo happy and make me feel good too? Well, there's only one way, isn't there? I slowly got up. Then I knelt in front of Siwoo, who was sitting on his knees like a criminal, and met his gaze. Look at me. There was a brief moment of hesitation, but thinking of the small Min Ki-won inside me, I went straight ahead. This is the only way to dispel Siwoo's anxiety. I don't care what happens afterward. Let's just do it and see. Startled, Siwoo jerked backward. He touched his lips with trembling fingers, seemingly trying to feel the lingering warmth. Wow. We were watching a zombie movie, and now my boyfriend has turned into a zombie. Consider that a practice run from me. Next time you know what to do. Afraid the awkward atmosphere would continue if I stayed still, I immediately pressed the play button. The loud sound of trains colliding filled the room, clearing the air. There was no more conversation after that. Partly because the movie was heading toward its conclusion, but also because I, like Siwoo, had lost my ability to speak. But even without talking, I spent the rest of the movie flinching and leaning on Siwoo's shoulder whenever a jump scare appeared. At some point, I just clung to him until the movie ended. No matter how scary the scenes were, I could endure them in his large embrace. It was the first time in my life I'd felt such a sense of security. That was fun. Just had a lot of heart-stopping moments. That's how zombie movies are. As the ending credits rolled, I showed no intention of leaving his arms, so Siwoo released his hold first and stood up. I need to use the bathroom. Pick the next movie you want to watch. Oh, okay. Once he disappeared, I remembered what I'd done earlier. I recalled the absurd action I'd taken. I'll do it first today. I'll do it. Today I'll eek. I barely suppressed the scream that was about to escape. I'm crazy. I'm crazy. I'm crazy. I'm crazy. Min Ki-won, you've completely lost your mind. I'd been quiet only because I'd left the pacing to Siwoo all this time. Min Ki-won was originally a woman who knew no restraint. How could I forget how many times the powder keg almost exploded and let my guard down? A Ki-won who forgets her past has no future. The result would be breaking my promise to Ki-won. I wouldn't be able to protect her. No, Min Ki-won could do something like that, right? But soon my defense mechanism naturally activated. It was clearly conveying the unified opinion of the various Ki-wons inside me. Right. There's no way Min Ki-won would have let young Siwoo off the hook so easily. You did the right thing. This is what Min Ki-won would do. Min Ki-won likes young Siwoo. She's hidden those feelings for 14 years. After holding back for so long, what's wrong with letting go a little? Siwoo will keep me grounded. I just need to trust Siwoo. It doesn't matter if I go wild. Let's do as I please. In the bathroom, Siwoo composed himself while looking directly at his reflection in the mirror. He wasn't drunk, and his reason was intact. But his body was naturally drawn to Ki-won, and with just a little carelessness, he could face the greatest crisis of his life. National anthem. Ready. The saddest moment of his life. Ready. Replacing Ki-won's face with that of a famous comedian. Ready. Splashing cold water on his face once more, Siwoo opened the bathroom door. Whoa! Ki-won was standing right in front of the door, with a flushed expression. A sweet alcohol scent wafted to Siwoo's nose. As if she had hastily drunk something and spilled it, there was a wet mark on Ki-won's white t-shirt. Siwoo! Pure affection washed over him. What's wrong all of a sudden? You know, she was a woman who ran with Rika every morning. No matter how strong Siwoo was, he couldn't overcome Kiwon's leg strength when she was standing firmly on the ground. Siwoo started losing ground in their standing wrestling match. Wait. At first, in the end, Siwoo had only one option. Kiwon's body, lifted into the air, flew and landed precisely on the bed. There was a precarious moment when the folding table almost tipped over, nearly spilling a bowl of macchiali. Why did you throw me? I have something to say. Wait, calm down. Talk slowly. I'm listening. Okay. Chaewon, who always maturely guided Siwoo, would occasionally go wild when physical intimacy intensified. But this was the first time it had been this severe. It was because she had forcibly consumed alcohol that her body couldn't handle. If left unchecked, an accident was bound to happen. There was only one way to calm her down. Keep her lying quietly on the bed until she falls asleep. Siwoo's reason was still intact. He was human, not a beast. He just needed to avoid accidentally lying down beside her on the bed. You know, I like you a lot. Yes, I know. I've liked you for a long time. Liked you so much. I know. Yes, I know. I love you just as much. Chaewon smiled broadly at the word love. The girl who had been charging at him like someone cursed by a succubus just moments ago had now become an ordinary girl. Siwoo felt a bit relieved. The major crisis was over. Ugh. Two hands shot out and grabbed Siwoo by the nape. Without time to dodge, Siwoo's face was pulled against two rounded peaks. So I'm going to hug you like this. Wait. Min Ki-won. Stay still. Wah. The more he moved, the more vividly he felt the sensation, so Siwoo maintained a bent posture like the Korean letter Hangul-gyeot. Ki-won's breathing was rough. His head moved up and down between the valley. Hee I like you, singing the national anthem like Snoop Dogg in his mind. Recalling the first time he visited his parents' columbarium, making himself feel like a disloyal son for thinking of his parents in such a situation. Still, it was not easy to endure the stimulation. Siwoo's hands naturally moved toward Chaewon. It was an instinctive advance that was hard to resist. Hum. Snore. A soft breathing sound reached Siwoo's ear. Are you sleeping? Hee. Siwoo slightly turned his squashed face to look at Chaewon. There was a girl sleeping with a happy expression. Siwoo put his finger in and out of Chaewon's open mouth. There was no reaction. After carefully freeing himself from Chaewon's grip so as not to wake her, Siwoo collapsed on the floor. A long sigh escaped. Siwoo thought to himself that he had never faced such a crisis in his life before. Chapter 140. Stop it. Siwoo's life is already. When I opened my eyes, it was morning. The rain that had fallen all night seemed to have stopped, and the sparrows were chirping noisily. I slid the window open with a rattle. The sky was clear, and the breeze was cool but humid, signaling the approaching end of summer. As I stared blankly at the damp streets, I suddenly felt something was off and looked around the room. Siwoo was nowhere to be seen. He couldn't have gone to school. Was he in the bathroom? I hurried to the bathroom, but it was quiet. No sound of running water, no sound of slippers. Was he taking a bath? No, that couldn't be it. If he were, classical music would be playing, but it wasn't. The door was closed, but I didn't feel the need to open it, so I returned to the bed. How did I fall asleep last night? I definitely downed a bowl of macchiali, thinking I'd leave everything to Siwoo, and then charged at him as he was coming out of the bathroom. My memory cuts off right there, so I must have passed out. Nothing unusual must have happened afterward.